Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
A truce, Bruce. As long as you have this card, a truce. But all you have to do is tear it in half, and I'm happy to discuss with you any way you'd like why you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job.
You know, it's funny you would talk about people who died in my arms. Because when I held Harley Quinn, and she was bleeding and dying, she begged me with her last breath that when I killed you, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you, that I will
Whoa, now here, Brucey.
What?
I'm your best friend, and I gotta say, I don't think good guys say those dirty words like you just did. What do you think, Deathstroke?
Man, let me tell you what, that is some crazy shit. Fucking Batman saying fuck, that's my job.
Hold on a second. I am in a trench coat, have a submachine gun in my hands, and you draw the line at me saying fuck?
Oh, good lordy, said it again. I'm gonna have some beef with that one.
You guys want to play some Dungeons and Dragons and just kind of figure this out?
We're not, I told you before and I'll tell you again, Slade, we are not playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, man.
Look, shit just got real with the world. I'm not fucking around.
Oh,
again,
here. Man. Can you believe this joke?
Can you stop stopping me when I'm trying to talk?
Look here, you don't want no beef. You don't want no beef with me. But Brucey, you're saying the F word. That's like the dirtiest word you can say. And I gotta say, I'm not gonna give you the reach around anymore if you're gonna have a dirty sailor mouth like that.
Joker, you literally killed a child, and this is where you're drawing the line. I'm just pointing this out. This does not make any sense.
I never had that kind of naughty language, even when I was beating old Robin there with a crowbar.
You know what? I've made a 180. I'm back on Batman's side. You can't be killing kids, Jokey. That's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, come on. Did you see his suit? He wasn't a boy or a child. He was a 45-year-old man.
His package would make you think otherwise, but no, it's still a bit too young. You gotta wait and see.
Slade.
Yeah.
Slade, I don't know how you know that about Robin's package. It kind of disturbs me.
It's right out there. It's like fucking David Bowie in Labyrinth, basically. You can't stop looking at it.
Everybody knows about his package. It's out there for the world to see. You can't run around in tights like that and not draw a little attention there, Brucey.
All right, fine. If I stop swearing, will you follow me to safety so that Superman doesn't find us?
Yes, and as long as you got my card, I think we can do business together.
Whoa, you guys are like friends now? This is like some weird stuff, dude.
I'm teaming up with you, and we had a whole thing against each other that nobody saw.
Yeah, but I didn't kill a fucking kid.
True.
You don't understand, Deathstroke. We're not just friends. We're super friends.
Feels like I've heard that one before, but alright. Are you sure you don't want to be a 3rd level mage? Or a 5th level dark elf? There's Superman right there.
Aha! There you little fuckers are. I've been looking all over the fucking place for you. Fuck!
Well, goddamn it.
What is this world coming to? Looks like we're gonna have to start being the good guys around here. Strokey. Ha ha!
Strokey and jokey.
Singing karaoke. Ha 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 ha!
Well, fuck. The Justice League has assembled for our final part of Zack Snyder's Justice League, Snyder versus Whedon. It is I, once again, the man who knows too much about Batman, and with me, as usual, is my co-host, Andrew.
It is I, everyone, and with this, children, we shall conclude our tutelage on this movie, finally.
It only took us 5 parts.
Thank you, Ben.
And then, joining us once again is Zach.
Hello, kiddies, it's your old Uncle Jojo, and I bought all 3 of you a special gift. My presents this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and there are 4, not 3. There was no Justice League discussion without him. He went to the Fortress of Solitude, and now he's back. It's Dustin Lee Massey.
Back from the dead with the shaved head, right?
That's right.
And can't miss the epilogue, right? That's my wheelhouse
Yes.
right now. Awesome.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we left off at, Dustin, you were not here because you were recovering from the resurrection, but Snyder was at 36. Whedon was still at 1.5. We didn't give him any new points since the last time
No
that you were
no
here.
points at all.
Yes. So we are going to close this out by going into the last 2 parts. Part 6, Something Darker, and Part 7, A Father Twice Over, which is the epilogue. So let's get right to it. For some sections that will be called open floor, where it's just like very minor differences that we'll just cover for a little bit. If you have something to chime in about, that's cool. But the formal Snyder versus Whedon is where we'll break down and do the round table where everybody gets to chime in terms of their thoughts on what was better. Though I think we all know what was better. Anyway, open floor. Superman arrives in Smallville. This is the beginning of Chapter 6. In both versions, Clark takes Lois there and he says, "This is home." And in the Snyder version, Lois says, "You spoke." And he says, "Did I not before?" In the Whedon cut, because of the fact that Clark had spoken during the previous fight in the Heroes Park, they ADR'd a line where Amy Adams says, quote, "You smell good." And Clark says, "Did I not before?" This is inane. You could have just cut the part where Clark said, "This is home," if you didn't want to have that continuity issue, if you really needed to cut those lines. According to a recent interview with assistant editor Carlos Castillon, this line almost made it into the Snyder Cut by mistake until Deborah Snyder caught it. So, thank God for that, because
Wow.
it's stupid. Yeah. So, in the
Damn.
Snyder version...
Thanks, Deborah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's absolutely, I don't think she gets enough credit, but she's, Zach credits her as being, his partner, not just in life and romantically, but also in these movies and stuff. So
She's executive producer, baby.
Yep. So in the Snyder version, we see more of the Kent farm. Lois gives Clark his shirt, and Clark reminisces about his time, and you get sort of the zoom out, and you see the swing set that was in Man of Steel as the Man of Steel music plays. Very poignant, very nostalgic, and of course, Joss Whedon cuts it. So, on to Snyder versus Whedon, the Batcave scene. We have 2 very different versions of the Batcave scene across the movies. In the Snyder version, Batman brings the team into the cave for the first time, and they meet Alfred, who decides to, whip up some tea. They strategize that they're going to Russia, emphasizing that this is an abandoned area due to all the radiation. And Cyborg talks about being willing to sacrifice himself to destroy the mother boxes. Batman pep talks everyone. He doesn't care how many worlds Steppenwolf's defeated. He's never fought all of them united. Pretty badass, short, sweet scene. The Whedon cut, however, is completely different. In this version, Aquaman throws a tantrum and destroys Batcave equipment and accuses Cyborg of being with the enemy and not being able to control himself. Flash brings up that he's hungry because his blood sugar is low, which is weird because it's never paid off, whereas in the Snyder cut, it's never said that he's hungry in the Batcave, but then we see him eat later, so there's like this weird thing when you watch both versions. Wonder Woman encourages Cyborg to find the Mother Box's location as Batman tries to ask Aquaman if he can put out some feelers in the aquatic community, and just flat out asks him, "You do talk to fish, right?" As a kind of a way to inject some humor there. We then get a scene of Wonder Woman helping out Batman to set his broken shoulder back after Superman beat him. Wonder Woman inexplicably dons a sash for this scene that some say is because a body double was Wonder Woman during this scene where she sets the bone in, and they just had a CG'd Gal Gadot's face in. And if that's true, then again, that is better CG than what they did to Henry Cavill's face in the Whedon cut.
It's a sash in the Snyder cut too.
She's not wearing a sash in the Snyder cut.
Okay,
There's no
okay,
scene
I'm
like
wondering.
this in the Snyder cut.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no scene like that. It was just in the Batcave of her in the Wonder Woman outfit.
Oh yeah.
It seems like this, in the Whedon version, was some attempt at a WonderBat scene for the shippers. Batman is also a lot more self-deprecating here, where he's just like, I can barely do my job, that type of thing, as opposed to the one in the Snyder Cut, where he's just like, I don't care how many hells he's conquered. So that's cool. Wonder Woman admits that she's been doing more hiding than leading, which does give her sort of her own arc for Whedon's version, and that she feels responsible for leading people to their deaths due to what happened to her and to what happened to Steve Trevor after the events of Wonder Woman 1. So a little bit more Wonder Woman focused as opposed to the Snyder version, which is very much focused on Cyborg and Batman rousing the troops. So anyway, let's go around to thoughts on Snyder versus Whedon on this stuff, starting with Dustin.
Wasn't there still like some sort of like interaction in the Snyder Cut too between Bruce and Diana though with the mouse, right? Like they both like grabbed.
Yeah, it was, yeah. An earlier part, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I felt like it was like still trying to make that kind of like loose connection. I did think that there was something interesting about the Whedon scene in terms of like Diana like seeing something in Bruce because he's like the only like normal guy of the bunch. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's just like beaten up. And I don't think she ever like really stops to think about it until she sees like him like, you know, bruised. And so I do think that was kind of like a good moment, like in the movie that develops character. But other than that, and also kind of like showing that human side of Batman. But other than that, overall everything, you know, was much better in the Snyder Cut. But I did like that little, you know, moment in the Whedon cut.
Nice. Zach.
Well, don't you just miss self-deprecating Batman?
I know you hate this aspect, yeah.
I gotta say though, Dustin did sell me a little bit now on the idea of, you know, Diana seeing Bruce as the only non-superpowered member of the Justice League, and kind of taking that into account and as a realization. So I guess we could maybe give Whedon one tiny point there, but I forgot about Aquaman tearing shit up in the Batcave and all this stuff happening that just didn't make any sense. So I'm glad I that didn't happen. So of course the Snyder his version is stronger as usual, as we spoke about throughout the series.
Andrew.
I mean, it's Snyder again, but what's the major differences here again? Between the two differences? Focus.
I mean, the Whedon one is all about Wonder Woman and talking to Batman, and there's not really a scene like that in the Batcave in the other version where it's about Cyborg and his willingness to sacrifice himself in order to go inside the mother boxes and save the world.
And low.
Okay, so he removed focus once again from Cyborg here.
Right, because all it is in the Whedon version is just like, you know, Wonder Woman being like, I believe in you, Victor. You can find the mother boxes, but it's very forgettable.
But isn't there the part too where like Bruce is talking to Diana and he's like, I was sitting right here, and he was like,
it's a later scene. Yeah, that's a later scene.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. I was excited about
No, that's fine.
No, that's okay.
I gotta say, I don't remember, did Cyborg's did Silas sacrifice himself in the Whedon cut?
I don't think so.
Never. Nope.
Okay.
He's still alive at the end.
So that's probably why that focus is on Cyborg in the Snyder cut, is because that just happened. So I think that's probably why it's more important. I honestly didn't remember if that happened or not in the theatrical cut. So
it was too emotionally charged. It was too good of a scene to put into there.
You're going to get to that at the end of this episode, I think. Why would he make all these decisions?
Right.
It'd be
Yes.
really bad and just be like, I didn't remember Silas at all in the Whedon cut.
Not at all. I remember
he
him
didn't-
being there.
He barely had a role to. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't blame Dustin. You know, they barely explored that relationship outside of like 2 scenes.
Yeah. Well, it's Snyder, everybody.
All right. Yeah. So I would
That's my
agree.
commentary.
Batman is a lot more badass. Cyborg takes center stage with his sacrifice. It's nice seeing Alfred meeting the rest of the Justice League, which we didn't really get in the Whedon cut. I did wonder, there is a picture going around that was going on before the Snyder Cut was released of Bruce talking to Alfred in the Batcave. He's unmasked and with a batsuit on, and Alfred's there, but in the background is the armored batsuit from BVS just sort of hanging there. It seemed like there was going to be a scene. Some say that's a scene where Batman talks a little bit more about how he had been killing people beforehand and how like it's important for him to redeem himself. But we didn't get that scene, and that promo pic comes from somewhere, and it's not in the Snyder Cut. So release that cut, Snyder. I want to see that scene.
That's right.
Come on, man. But I do say I agree with Dustin that I do like the sort of Wonder Woman aspect, more so than the Batman aspect of that scene where she helps him out, as well as the just general idea of her having to sort of step out of the shadows a little more in the Whedon version. So I guess we could give like 0.5 to Whedon, just
Wow.
because it's the final episode.
Wow.
It's the final episode, remember? So we kind of have to make this a little bit more.
He's catching up.
Sure, I
Got a
guess.
shot.
Sure.
Snyder still wins out, so that's Snyder 37, Whedon 2, because he was at 1.5, so it's Whedon 2. Okay. Back to the next part.
Nice. Coming in strong.
So
Finishing strong.
next part is the scene between Clark and Lois, where we got the reunion in the Smallville field. So Snyder has a scene where that was in the trailer that was of the movie back in 2017, where Clark is just like in the field and he's just like, I take that as a yes, and she's like, what? And he's like, the ring, because of the ring from BVS. Great moment, not in the Whedon version. Snyder has also a beautiful shot of Clark playing with a butterfly on his hands, and this is actually an echo to Man of Steel, because in Man of Steel there was a shot of a butterfly caught in the chains of a swing, and so it's almost symbolic of like the butterfly was trapped back in the time when he was young and he couldn't use his powers, and now like he's back from the dead, he's Superman, like he's more free. So it's a great moment. Whedon has different dialogue that sort of, I guess, is trying to explain why he cut the scene where Clark is not in the Kent home, because he said that he didn't want to spend time in the house because he just got out of a wooden box, and so he didn't want to be in another one. And then he talks about how death felt, quote, itchy and weird in so many ways. It's really awkward humor.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That's terrible.
And Lois talks about how he wouldn't be proud of her because she wasn't her usual self, and he sort of comforts her and said, quote, I'm the idiot who left. This could be a touching moment if, you know, Cavill's face didn't look creepy as fuck during it, because of his 50. It's like the bottom half is still really, especially when he smiles and he's just like, yes, ma'am. It's just like, that just doesn't look right. Martha arrives and they reunite. Whedon has Clark say a line where he says, you called mom, explaining that Lois was the one who called Martha. Snyder's version does not have that, but we can assume the same happened because, you know, Lois and Martha are in contact with each other. I'm not going to give a point to Whedon for just that. But Whedon cut everything after the reunion. He just hugs his mom, and that's about it, as opposed to in the Snyder cut where he says, like, they brought me back for a reason. Like, he tells them, like, I have to go. In the Whedon version, it's Lois who tells Clark, I have to send you back. In that. So it's kind of more Clark in the Snyder version making that decision, as opposed to Lois sort of reminding him in the Whedon version. So those are the two different versions of the reunion. Let's go around. Dustin.
First of all, I gotta say, WB had to have like intentionally been trying to like torpedo the movie with that CGI.
Yeah.
Like, holy! I mean, there's guys that can do better CGI with deep fakes in their basement. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
There was somebody that did that. Did you see that?
yeah. And it was like 100 times better. You know, just like like, come on, man! You'll never convince me that wasn't intentional to make him look so bad.
Right.
Like, there's just no way. And the other thing too, like the butterfly scene, the butterfly was yellow, right?
Yellow or orange? Yeah. I'll have to look
well,
again.
and the thing for me, and I know like Zack Snyder's like his films like and Superman in general is filled with like this religious, symbolic, meaning or whatever, and it's tied to Christianity or whatever. But like for me, I'd also like to think that, you think about symbolist painters like Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin, and they associated yellow with spirituality and the life cycle of Christ. And they would say different colors would line up with harvest cycles. So like yellow would be associated with like spirituality and rebirth. So like I also think that there was like not only just emphasis on the butterfly, but it like zooms in on it a lot, and it's like this yellow. So I think that was like somehow tied to spirituality as well and the rebirth. I'd like to think that, but
I wouldn't put it past Snyder. Yeah,
It could
I
be.
wouldn't put it past him.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him, and it's like little things like that where it's like I'm really trying to make this moment mean something, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say too is like the comment about like, oh, you smell good, and everybody's like wondering like why we even said that. She could be under the assumption that maybe you'd smell bad after being dead for a while. So-
Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Right. So, like, oh,
We
that's
just need to call
surprising.
attention to that.
You definitely smell better than I think you would. So, but overall, just all the little details, I really feel like
Yeah.
he's trying to like really have something surface level, but then also something deeper. Like if you really want it to be there for you, right? So definitely Snyder.
Yep. Zach.
I think even the awkward dialogue aside, the change from having the terrible CGI upper lip is a big plus. And I know that's an unshakable thing for just about everybody when they watch that movie is you just can't unsee it. It's I was thinking earlier how uncomfortable it made us, and it's like the uncanny valley of people that just are put off by things that are almost human but just a little bit off, and I think that's what it is. And he just looks so weird. And yes, the change in dialogue just wasn't for the better, so you're probably right. It probably was a conscious effort to just make things weird. And this particular scene is not one that I felt like they thought should be injected with humor. This is the first time that they're seeing each other since his death, which apparently has left such an impact not only on Lois but the world at large in Whedon's version. And you're gonna like fill it up with some awkward like yuck humor, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't come off. And to talk for him, his only mention about his experience being dead was that it was itchy and felt weird. That's so bizarre. Like it's just like there's no resonance whatsoever with his experience.
You wanted
So it's
like
like,
an
well-
afterlife kind of thing, or like I saw a white light, I saw Kryptonians.
I don't
in the
know,
sky.
even-
Maybe just don't cover it. Yeah.
Yeah, like Snyder, I don't think they didn't say anything at all about like, well, what was it like being dead? It just was. That's not important, but the fact that they touched on that and then tried to make a joke out of it was just so bizarre. It makes light of the whole crux of them bringing him back to life in the first place. I don't know. It just feels weird to kind of just. It's ham-fisted as everything else is.
Yeah. Andrew.
Okay, so the dialogue change. It feels like to me, Whedon is like in this almost the same vein as Kevin Smith and Tarantino in the sense that dialogue is really, really important for him. But he's better at action than Kevin Smith is, obviously. Whedon did do Avengers 1 and 2. There's action sequences in those. We have to give him points for those movies, especially first Avengers. But I it seems like that's like the main thing you wanted to change in this movie was like you want to change like all the dialogue probably. And Snyder is, I mean, look at the society line, with Joker.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's
I
not
know
even in there.
I know Terrio wrote it. I know Terrio wrote it, but it's like Snyder had to okay it, and so I don't know. I feel like Snyder notices dialogue less or something. I don't know what it is, but in this case, the Whedon dialogue is worse, what Snyder did was better. So it's just kind of a strange thing there, but yeah. it's just awkward dialogue, like everybody else has been saying. It's not as good as the Snyder version again, and I think it just comes down to this was a real, like, you know, passion-filled, heart-wrenching time of Snyder's life, and he puts that into this movie, and Whedon just comes on to what he viewed as a sinking ship. You know, and he probably, I don't know, I wasn't there, but he probably saw himself as the captain to steer out of the storm.
Right.
And that didn't happen, so.
Yep. I would, that's definitely an interesting point, that Whedon is kind of known for that, and yet this is not necessarily his time to shine, as you can see, either with the dialogue or with the CG face. There's definitely more of an emotional weight, as I keep saying throughout all of this series about this movie, emotional weight to this scene versus in the Whedon cut, especially the part where he's just like, you know, they brought me back for a reason. You know, he could just settle down with Lois here, but he knows that can't happen. He knows he has to be Superman. He knows he has to go back into the scout ship and get the suit back and be side by side with Diana and Bruce and all that. So I think that's sort of a poignancy to that, as well as just getting to reunite with Martha, because that's the first time he's seen her since before she was kidnapped in BVS. You know, talking a little bit more to Lois. So anyway, point obviously goes to Snyder on this one. That's Snyder 38, Whedon 2. Anyway,
this is a clear Snyder victory on this one. On this point, very clear. Unlike the last one, we gave Whedon a point, right?
Yes. Next one is the team going up into the ship. So in the Snyder Cut, Arthur is talking about how he thinks they're putting too much pressure on Cyborg to save everyone. Talking about how we're asking a kid who just lost his father to save the world and everything. And Flash is just like, I thought you didn't care. And then Momoa has like this moment where he's just like, I never said that. And I think it's a great moment from Momoa, just very understated moment, as well as feeds into Arthur's arc about really caring for other people, because it started out one of his big lines in the beginning is just like, I don't owe anyone anything, that type of thing. This is the moment that Dustin was talking about, where Bruce is like just sitting at the console with the Bat computer and is just like, I remember I saw this vision and Barry Allen was right there, and you know, I think there's something darker coming, which finally pays off that Knightmare sequence from 2016. So it only took Warner Brothers 5 years to show us a little bit more of a payoff of that. So in the Whedon version, obviously the Whedon version completely ignores the Knightmare stuff entirely. It's all basically just exposition. We got to go to Russia. Cyborg found the location.
There's a family in Russia.
There's a family too, you know, so it's not a radioactive area. There's people there, and then Flash is like,
they are under a table.
Why would they be there? Yeah, Flash is like, why would people be there? And Aquaman is just like, well, just because people have nowhere else to go. So
because our directors have changed, you idiot. Oh wait,
yes.
Don't say that out loud.
Yes. So Bruce says transport won't fly that fast, and Cyborg's like, they will for me. So that's the only time in the Whedon cut where it's indicated that Cyborg is going to sort of fix the flying fox so that they can go from Gotham to Russia in time. In the original Snyder Cut, that's not how it segues into it. It's Alfred who's reading the Bat computer, and he says, you know, Master Bruce, you have to see this. And then they're all going up to the flying fox, and Cyborg reveals that he fixed it, and that flight is its nature. And Batman says, yours too, which kind of has this nice little analogy between Cyborg and Flying Fox, the Flying Fox ship, where they both kind of get to finally fly in a way towards the end. There's a sort of metaphor where they're grounded throughout, and then they finally get to take off.
It's the Flying Fox's character arc.
Flying Fox is a character arc too. Even the goddamn ship has.
Even the ship has a character arc in this Snyder picture.
It's amazing. And then to continue the arcs, Batman's like, he'll be here, Alfred. I know it. In terms of Superman, and then he says he knows that because of faith. In the Whedon cut, he cuts that entirely, and it's just Batman just going into the ship.
He's walking up a ladder, and that's it.
He just walks. That's it. Yeah, there's like no dialogue in that whole thing in the Whedon version. All right, Dustin. Man.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like everybody already knows, like I was like super excited for this scene because I just couldn't wait to get to it, right? But just the fact that there is like so much planning, right, and it does like tie back into, you know, the previous films, and then gives you insight into like what is going to come, like what is going to happen, and like you know, we know that they had a very large, ambitious plan, you know, mapped out. And the other thing I love about that whole scene too is just like the shot when it's like taking off and they're like above the water and you can see like the Wayne Manor and stuff like that, and how it's like coming up from like underground. Like I thought like all of that stuff was like super cool and just a little bit more insight into you know Batman's world. Because we want to explore that more, obviously, right? Hashtag make the Batfleck film. Yeah.
That's true. That Deathstroke, I want to see the Deathstroke more than Batman in that picture.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah, so definitely Snyder, just because, like, I mean, it just ties everything together, and you know, we see the big picture like coming into play, obviously.
Yep. Zach.
Oh, I don't know. I think Whedon's got something here.
he's on to something.
No, I mean, it's just like we've been saying. The Snyder version is definitely superior here as well. And of course, I do like that they actually make a connection to the Knightmare scene and him remembering that Flash was right there. So I think that's important to link those two movies together. And that you get a little bit more of Cyborg having that arc. I think that's really important. Because, again, I think the movie does center around him quite a bit. Despite what the theatrical cut would show, I think it's important for him. And as far as the Flying Fox goes, I'll bring something up later that I don't know if it's a continuity error or maybe I just missed something. So I'll wait till we get to Mother Russia and we'll talk about it.
The Russia.
Something happens, and I'm a little iffy on the status of the ship, but it's
I understand.
It's cool.
Yep. Andrew.
I agree with everything you guys said. The main thing I want to talk about is, why do you think Momoa says that? I never said I didn't care. I think that's an interesting point to bring up. Is it because in his mind, it's not that he doesn't care, it's just that he doesn't want to choose right now or something? Like, what exactly do you think is going on in Aquaman's head here?
Well, he is still helping in the beginning. He's helping that village in the beginning, but he's not really connected to them. Like, he doesn't consider them necessarily family. He stands up for them, but it's not like he's buddy with anybody there. He just goes right back into the water after, Bruce says his piece on that. So he's not really connected to anybody. He talks about how he doesn't owe anybody anything, and I think his arc in this movie is about reconnecting in some way, or being nudged a little further into reconnecting to eventually go into the Aquaman movie to complete his arc about taking the throne back. And this is about that, because he's emotionally affected by the fact that Cyborg loses his dad, probably even more so than Batman, ironically, in this, where he's just like, this is our fault that this happened to this kid. And it's why his final line in the movie is, "I have to go see my dad."
Right.
You notice that.
Right.
Like he says that. And he says that to Mara and Volko, so kind of sees that, like, okay, he's coming around to the idea. There's also that line from Wonder Woman that she says to him in the cemetery at Smallville, where she's like, hate is useless, because he hates Atlanteans, and she's like, hate is useless. So I think it's about him setting that aside. It's about him sort of accepting that that he can be a hero, and that he can do these things for other people, and he can connect because he's so used to being disconnected. In a way. So I think he is a very, like, it's not a huge character arc, because it's mainly to set up his
something
Aquaman
though,
movie.
yeah.
But it is interesting, and it's definitely more exploration of the Whedon cut.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely more there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I would say it's also interesting too, though, right? Because he's also bitter and has mommy issues, right? It's like what we're really looking at. Just like the other characters, he's got mommy issues, right? And he's bitter because he doesn't know what happened, right? Like, she left and never came back, and there's no resolution yet.
That's correct.
So he's just a bitter person that I think that's eaten at him for years, right? So that's part of why you're disconnected, and it's not that I don't care. I just feel like nobody cares about me, right? So
you think that? See, that's what I was thinking. Like, what would be in the parentheses there? It's not that I don't care. In parentheses, I'm just on my own path right now. Is that kind of how you would fill that in? Like, that's how easiest way for me to understand that. But yeah, this is the kind of, I love talking about that. Like, what do they mean by that line? Like, a lot of people think that's too much, but not people that listen to this podcast, I guess.
It's a great moment. It's honestly one of my favorite Aquaman moments of the entire movie. It's just that part.
It is great. Yeah. I think, of course, Snyder again. By the way, if you've gotten this far and still don't understand what we're talking about with character arcs, just a real quick explanation. Like with Thor 1, he essentially goes from arrogant to not arrogant. It's what the character goes throughout the movie. So that's a quick explanation. So, all right.
I don't get it.
If you've gone this far without knowing what a character arc is, you haven't been paying attention.
There's
to what
probably somebody out there.
Yeah. I think this is. I just love all the different things that feel new to me, even though it's technically the first version. All this, whether it's the Aquaman, the little character moment of Aquaman, or Bruce calling back to the Knightmare vision, or Cyborg fixing the flying fox, or Batman, even telling Alfred about Faith in that moment, and sort of he knows, like he was been a guy who was just like, we have to. If there's a 1% chance this alien is our enemy, we have to kill him. And then in this version, he's just like, no, I know he's going to show up because he's back.
Right.
I know that he's going to help us out. And I think it's great, and there's so many different character things happening at once in this, and I think that's really, like, we gave Terrio a little bit of a crap in BVS for the stuff that we didn't like, but here it's like he and Snyder really shine. Like this is where you get like the true craft of what we're doing or we're intending to do before studio interference on that stuff, or even with studio interference that they were able to manage to do on that. So obviously Snyder 39, Whedon 2. Next bit is going to be just an open floor where Steppenwolf unites the mother boxes and he creates the unity. So in the Snyder version, he unites them, and that alerts the Amazons. They can sense that it's happening. The Atlanteans. So we get another moment with Mera and Volko. Alfred is pouring himself some liquor because he decides, this might be the end of the world, so I might as well drink.
Perfect.
And Steppenwolf talks about how his redemption is nigh. While in the Whedon cut, Steppenwolf puts it together, and the main reactions we see is that the Russian area suddenly has these weird CG growths that start popping up. And Whedon Steppenwolf says, quote, "Praise to the mother of all horrors." Get it? Mother of all horrors. Yep. So that's
great.
More puntastic stuff right there. Obviously, the point's going to go automatically to Snyder. I don't think we need to go around the room for that one. So that's Snyder 40, Whedon 2. I do want to note, as I went through more and more of this, I just realized almost all of Steppenwolf's dialogue is different in both versions. There's maybe like one or two lines that Kieran Hines did not have to like re-record or anything like that. It's really weird watching both because it's never, he almost never says the same thing across both versions. So that's interesting to me. So
no arc whatsoever. Back to arcs, but no arc whatsoever, right, with Steppenwolf in the Whedon one.
Not really, other than just the general thing of going from being powerful to being taken out at the end. So
get out from under that table, you Russian family.
Snyder versus Whedon on the next part. So the next part is on the team strategizing in the Flying Fox, what they're going to do when they get there. In both versions, it's up to Victor to take apart the boxes. And I didn't realize that it was in both versions until I rewatched for this podcast, the Whedon version. They actually do talk about, like, it's up to Victor to do this. However, it's just obviously not given the same emotional weight, given all the stuff that's set up earlier on that. Also, there's a different strategy. In the Snyder Cut, it's all about Barry running around to create the charge so that Cyborg can go into the boxes, as opposed to the Whedon version where it's just like, Victor, you just have to pry these 3 boxes apart. In the Whedon version, there's an added part for humor. I can already tell that Zach's about to groan about this one. Aquaman has a whole speech about thinking, honestly, I think we're all going to die. And we don't know what we're doing. And then admits to having a crush on Wonder Woman. The idea of Aquaman having a crush on Wonder Woman isn't actually new. That was in the comics where they were in the water together and his foot accidentally got caught in the lasso of truth and he confessed his crush on her in the JLA 80-page giant story Revelations by Christopher Priest. But the same thing happens here with the lasso of truth, and he threatens anybody who is going to give him shit about this. So that's some added humor into a moment leading up to the final battle. Anyway, Snyder versus Whedon. Snyder has the strategy stuff. Whedon basically ends with this humorous speech from Momoa. What do you guys think? Starting with Dustin.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the part to insert humor, and it's also getting ready to lead up to the whole thing that this is getting ready to really just like roll out this idea that Flash and Cyborg were just the movie, right? Like they were such a big part, right? And they're laying out like what's going to happen. And they were just like worthless in the other version, right? Like we're gonna go, we're gonna cut you pretty completely out just to like insert humor. So obviously it's just like ridiculous that they chopped it up like that at all. Yep. So yeah, definitely Snyder.
Zach.
That's what I say. I remember that part. I remember watching that in the theater and thinking how stupid that was. Again, that led me to dislike Aquaman for a long period of time. This version of Aquaman.
Because he has a crush on Wonder Woman?
No, I don't know. It's just the way that his personality is portrayed in the Whedon version. It's just so, I don't know, it was lame. And just like Dustin said, it's an inappropriate moment to insert humor when we should be feeling uncertain about what's going to happen. And, as characters, they should be getting ready for what's happening too, what's going to happen. Because if they fail, the world is doomed. But it's just, I don't know. I get that that's like what his thing is, Whedon's thing is inserting humor. And it just is not organic in this film, obviously, because it's not his material that he came up with. So it just... Right. Almost every bit of humor feels forced. That is an addition from him.
Andrew,
I laughed in the theater. I did. I did laugh at this scene with Momoa. I don't think it's better than what Snyder put in, but I don't know. Like Momoa going off like that was kind of funny to me. I got to be honest. What they're going to do as far as Aquaman liking Wonder Woman, that sets up a whole domino effect, doesn't it?
remember they have an affair in Flashpoint, the comic.
Oh, right. Yeah. So maybe he was going for that. Maybe. And it's still fucking canon right now, but I bet you that'll change. There's no way Snyderverse doesn't become canon, I think. Too much goddamn support online, everybody. But, we'll see, I guess. But,
yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, Snyder again. What can I say? It was strategy. They're going over strategy in the Snyder version, right? Yeah. On how to go to Darkseid or Steppenwolf's base. Is that what it was again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The nuclear facility. Battle. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean Snyder, of course. What are you kidding me over here?
That is Snyder 41, Whedon 2. I mean, obviously, I agree. I think the Aquaman humorous moment could work at a different time.
Yeah.
Earlier, not right before the final battle, because it just feels like, okay, what are the stakes here? If we can just do it right now, as opposed to like maybe earlier. So, Snyder 41, Whedon 2. The next part is when Clark gets his new suit, and that's the black Superman suit.
Yeah.
And it's a great moment. Narration. We get narration from his two dads, so we got some added dialogue from both Russell Crowe and Kevin Costner on this. There's not really any dialogue explaining the black suit or people reacting to the fact that he's in a black suit. However, I would say that's probably because it was changed to black in post. Cavill on set was wearing the classic blue and red the whole time. So I think that was kind of the best that they could do, short of maybe doing some ADR line of Batman reacting to the black suit or something. But I don't think that might have not really have been necessary. But I think some people brought up like there's not really an explanation for the black suit. And I'm just like, I get it, but I kind of already kept in mind like this was changed in post. So
there's aliens coming down and the whole world's really going to shit. Like, how much you going to care about? Your suit's a different color, I don't know.
The fact he's in a black suit.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that it does, I do kind of wish when you see the JL lineup that it does, the part of me is just like, I kind of wish he was in the red and blue for the classic lineup, Just I kind of wish that Batman was kind of back in the traditional suit at that point, just so that, it's the lineup of the heroes.
Right.
But, that's the main thing where I'm just like, it should have been red and blue. On that part, but of course it would have to make sense of the story for him to just switch back into a different costume when they get to the top of that part of the power plant. All right, so before we get to the break, we're going to go into the arrival. I've split up the final battle into several sections. So the first part is them arriving
to the dome and Batman doing the first attack. So Snyder just has it at night. Whedon basically color corrects the entire thing to have these red skies the whole time, so that's interesting. Snyder shows the team getting ready to arrive at Russia with, Batman tossing the Quindent over to Aquaman, Flash doing the yoga poses that I know Andrew likes, and
Points.
When Batman, already
Points. Yoga points.
Batman, yoga points. All right, Snyder 42, Whedon 2.
You gotta stretch,
so when
man,
Batman goes back to
before you run.
he leaves. He basically has the team go off, and he pilots the Flying Fox, and we have different dialogue. So in the Snyder version, he says, "Whatever you see, stick to the plan. It's why I brought you together." And he almost has kind of an optimistic look on his face, as opposed to the Whedon version where he says, "Don't wait for me, just do the job," from Whedon. So Batman seems more of a jerk in Whedon's version than in Snyder's, in spite of the fact that Snyder kind of has a rep among, the haters of being too dark and gritty of a version of Batman. So I think that is interesting that there are attempts to course correct Snyder led to more of a jerk Batman in this version. In both movies, Batman tries to go into the dome against the parademons alone, but this is portrayed very differently in that. So in the Snyder Cut, we get a lot more of Bruce in the Flying Fox as he crash lands and transitions to the Batmobile. We saw sort of the whole process of it. So just to address what I think I know what Zach's going to bring up, the Flying Fox sort of crash lands, but it's not really destroyed. It sort of just slides down. So you don't really see a ton of damage, and I don't think he really needs to use it that much more afterwards because he's already in. I think maybe that's the thinking. But I don't think it's destroyed enough, as opposed to, I think it might have been shown as more destroyed in the Whedon version. So in the Whedon version, Batman uses the sound he noticed from the opening sequence to attract the parademons, and apparently he didn't think that there would be more than 500 parademons because all of them come for him, and Alfred is like, "Look, we might not have thought this through in the Whedon version, so apparently they didn't think that would be suicide. As opposed to the Snyder version, where it doesn't seem like he accidentally fell into a stupid plan. It seems more that Batman already knows this could be the end of him, but he's doing his best to distract the parademons. He just sees himself as the most expendable member because he's the only one without superpowers. But of course, this team saves Batman in both versions. The Snyder Cut has a slow-mo of Wonder Woman coming by and hacking two parademons at once with the ancient lamentation music of Junkie XL whenever she shows up. Whedon Cut does not have the slow-mo at all. I think she does the same thing, but you don't notice what exactly she does. She kind of just swoops in. And in the Whedon Cut, Bruce has an extra line where he's like, "This isn't the plan," and Alfred's like, "No, this is the team." Cue Avengers music. In the Snyder Cut, we get an awesome team shot in the Snyder Cut of it's almost, and it weirdly reminds me a little bit of Age of Ultron, which is why it's ironic, that Whedon would have cut this. Maybe because he thought they would have reminded him of his movie in a weird way, but there's that. Just like in the opening of Age of Ultron, there's sort of just almost a freeze frame of the team. Mm-hmm. We get the similar thing here, though, of course, my preference is to Zack Snyder's Justice League than on Age of Ultron because it has the Batmobile in this shot. Aquaman in both versions gets captured by parademons and taken off, and he falls, but he's saved by Cyborg, who catches him. In the Snyder Cut, all he says is, "You're welcome." Whereas in the Whedon Cut, he says, "Ride ain't over yet." And Aquaman says, "My man." He says "my man" in both versions. However, I do want to point out that in the Whedon Cut, Aquaman has been distrusting of Cyborg this entire time, where he's just like, "You're working for the enemy. You can't control the machine." Whereas in the Snyder Cut, he sympathizes with Victor. So this feels like a more earned moment in the Snyder Cut, whereas in the Whedon Cut, it feels like Whedon's trying to do some weird light switch arc where suddenly they're buddies just because Cyborg saved him in that moment. Snyder has more of a showcase of the rest of the team. Wonder Woman uses her shield to save the Batmobile from a blast of the parademons. Cyborg has more appendages where he's blasting buildings with both arms as he's flying around. Aquaman shish kebabs parademons with his Quindent. Batman takes out parademons with a tower gun, and now he's on the big turret gun. This is all cut from the Whedon Cut. All these great moments. It's all basically he just keeps Batman in the Batmobile, and then Aquaman sort of surfing on the bodies of parademons, and that's about it. So those are the big differences in terms of the arrival. Let's start with Dustin.
So well, and first, like, I guess we'll address like the Superman suit, right? And like, I know there's no like call out to it, but once again, I think it's one of those things where, you know, and there's so many like of the Snyder haters. They're like, has he ever read a comic book? And it's like, yes, like they're loaded with these comic book moments, right? But like in the original, you know, comics, right, the black suit was to help him recover quicker because it would like absorb the sun, you know. So like it makes sense, and I don't necessarily know that like it had to be called out. I do always like, you know, because it's not addressed though. I always have this funny moment of like the college humor spoof where like Superman wants to team up with Batman. He's like, "Oh, you got an image problem." have you seen that? He's like, "I want to team up," and Batman's like, "Why?" Like, why? You don't need me. And he's like, "Oh, you have an image problem. Oh, you're not cool, right?" So like, I always think about the black suit and like him having an image problem when he'd be cool, right? Which is hilarious. But then like the whole like Batman and the Batmobile scene, like why would you cut that? Like everything's dark and the parademons are coming up and then the lights cut on and awesome. The guns like start shooting and then there's like the big tank cannon like on top of it. I'm like, dude, like you cut all that, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff was like amazing. Like and the only thing I do like does feel a little weird was like that one shot. Like it does remind me of the Avengers like so much. And I guess I'm just like so bitter against Whedon. I would just be like, just like take it out just so like nobody like makes that connection like at all. You know, but you know, other than that, like everything I think is fantastic. And I'm, you know, anytime I can get Batfleck kicking ass, like sign me up, right? But yeah, everything was just amazing.
Zach.
All right, so you know, that part where he comes out of the flying fox in the Batmobile reminded me a lot of the Dark Knight Rises, where he goes with the Bat Pod into the shadows, and then the I guess it's the bat or whatever flies out, and it's like darkness, but the headlights come on. Yeah, that kind of reminded me of that too. So that part was really cool. But yeah, he did. He cut all the fantastic stuff. Everything was so much better. I do like that Aquaman didn't say "yeehaw" flying down on the parademons. He did. He still flew into the building and then like came out, but he wasn't like "yeehaw." I just remember thinking that was.
Does he say
so
yeehaw?
Lame. Swear to God, yeah. It's like Macho Man Randy Savage, yeah. He does. He makes all these noises.
Hey. Don't bring Macho Man Randy Savage.
I'm with Dustin on that one.
But I don't want to see my Aquaman it was a weird actor moment. Like that. It was weird.
Yeah, he's just saying it's weird. Yeah.
Cream
it
of
was
the
out
crop.
of place, and yeah, everything was so much better. Of course, everyone looked much more competent. I will say that my mom would have hated that slow motion scene. She's got a real like thing against slow motion. She thinks everything's the Matrix if it's slow motion. So she would have not.
That's such a mom comment.
Yeah, it would have. She's like, oh, it's the Matrix. So I don't think she would have made it this long into the movie anyways at 4 hours. But yeah, she would have hated that. The only other thing I can think of is Batman's tactical suit. I feel like I did like it better in this version, maybe because I had a better experience as throughout the whole movie anyways.
Yes.
But I remember the first time I saw this, I was like, wow, it's just very Night Owl from Watchmen. Like I know those goggles are the exact same ones. Like I've now that someone has pointed that out to me, I was like, wow, they're the exact same goggles. But something about the silhouette is just not jiving with me. I just wish he had like the light up eyes like he did as the mech suit Batman. In the tactical suit overall is fine. I like the extra detailing, but it's something about the goggles. It's like he has to take them on and off, and I know that works in the Knightmare verse because it's, you know, everything's a little bit more low tech, and he might just, you know, that stuff that he needs, he just found. It's not part of his costume, but for a tactical suit, I wish it was just, you know, something that was built into the helmet. But that's really really nitpicky stuff.
Andrew.
Okay. Again with the character arc shit, but Batman, we've talked about this before, he's living out his arc from BVS. He's seen Superman sacrifice himself from that. He witnessed it firsthand. And I did kind of get the vibe like Batman he's planning to die tonight. He's going all out. Like, this is it. He's sacrificing himself. If he lives, it's a surprise. And I think they don't say it, but I don't know. You guys feel that way? I feel like this is written into the DNA of this script.
It could go either way, because it could also be him having faith that the team's going to back him up.
Oh yeah, faith too. So it fits with that whole thing as well. So it's either the team's going to back him up, but he's.
But I think he's fine with either.
Yeah.
He's fine with either scenario.
I think he planned on dying, and I think a lot of it is like he still carries guilt for his part in Superman dying, and I think this is his way of like making good on that, right, and redeeming himself.
Yeah.
So I do think he went into it like, I'm gonna die for sure. Like, don't, whatever you see, don't worry, keep going. Like, he planned on dying for sure.
Yeah.
There's something in the ether in those scenes, or in Batman's actions, or something that really, really got me, I think. And then the rest of the action is great too, because we have said a million times, Snyder is fucking ridiculously good at action. So that, but Batman's like mental state I wanted to bring up mostly, but yeah, Snyder again.
Yeah. There's also the moment where he's like shooting and you see the bullet shell come out, and that's sort of a reflection of the bullet shell that comes out with Joe Chill's gun in BVS.
Right.
And more of that cyclical nature. To me, the moment where the Batmobile comes out and the parademons all see it was more reminiscent of BVS with that Batmobile sequence where it's just like in the shadows and then the guy in the car sees that it's coming out and stuff. So, I mean, I think that's kind of a cool parallel as well. So, yeah, I mean, the team stuff is great. I didn't mind the splash page type shot. I admit that if that was in the Whedon cut, we would just all be like, okay, come on, Whedon. But, you know, because it's Snyder's, it's kind of just like, okay, like, because he doesn't normally do that stuff, it's kind of cool to see him do it.
He's going balls to the walls with the comic book shit. Yeah, the splash page stuff, I loved it. I thought that was great. By the way, before we move on, sorry, Ben, but the slow motion shit, people seem to hate that with Snyder. I fucking love that shit. For me, a lot of times action can go too fast. I don't know. I miss a lot of shit when I see movies. I like slow motion. I loved it since 300 when they're moving around and doing a spear this fucking way and that way and the sword and boom with the shield and all that. It's been doing that since 300. Maybe Dawn of the Dead. I can't remember. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that in particular. So a lot of people seem to hate it, but I like slow motion myself.
It makes it so much more memorable. All the action sequences in this are a lot more memorable than the Whedon version that cut down on the slow motion.
I want to follow the exact movement of those stuntmen and women. You know what I mean? I want to really know what's going on in what they're doing.
Yeah. It's like the old Chappelle Show episode where he makes the music video, but one's in slow motion and one's normal.
Cool, but
when it's normal, it's completely stupid.
That's exactly it.
So I think, like, to me, that's just like, okay, whatever. It's, there's a lot of CG and the slow motion. I'm just like, it's every fucking action movie in the last 10 to 20 years. Like, why is it this one that's singled out on that? So
I don't know, man. That's slow motion and everything. Why does Snyder get so much shit for that?
Yeah. So stupid. Anyway, a lot of this stuff is a lot better in the Snyder version and a lot more impactful, and it's great. There's probably I feel like if they did have that scene with him talking to Alfred in front of the Batsuit, and if that is the armored Batsuit from BVS, and he was talking about his guilt over his past and actions a little more on that part, then that would carry over. But they didn't have that scene in that, unfortunately. So as I said, release that cut, Snyder. Anyway, we end this with, and before the break, at Snyder 42, Whedon 2. We will finish this off when we get back from the break.
We're the Spirit Hunters, and we're a show that treats Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho's author as the center of the universe. Some weeks we do linguistic analysis.
So the Chinese meaning of this character is to smelt or refine, but so the changed meaning in Japanese it means to temper.
Other times we get absolutely smashed.
So we take one shot every time. Yusuke uses the ray gun.
1 hour later.
This is the least coherent episode.
Sarah, I think your apartment is haunted.
I think you're
You can find out more about the Spirit Hunters right here on the Greenlit Podcast Network.
mother box is calling. I'll just pick this up here, because this is the Joss Whedon version of things, where it's just in the parking lot, and I have no resistance against me. Put it in my car here, and let's see, now I just need to get my parking validated. Let me just drive on up.
That'll be $25.50, sir.
$25.50? That's an outrage. Do you know who I am?
No, but this is the biggest convertible I've ever seen. What is this, a tank? Is this like the Tesla tank?
It's a tank convertible from Apocalypse. Isn't it a sweet ride?
Wow, it blows my mind. But anyway, I'm gonna need the $25.50. You parked over 15 minutes.
Oh, damn. Well, I was not given any currency before I was transported to Earth, so I'm afraid I don't have any cash on me.
No cash, huh? What about credit?
You know, I really should have raided the wallets of all the dead bodies I've left behind.
Whoa!
Let's see here.
What? You kill people? I'm gonna call security.
I mean, it's not like they can do anything against me. Look at me.
I guess you're right, but, like, why aren't you just leaving now, then?
You know, I just wanted to honor the policy. I think that charging people $25 for 15 minutes of parking is true evil. Apocalypse would be proud.
Well, that is our policy here. Be evil all the time.
I respect that. You know, I didn't think I would find an Earthling I would have something in common with.
I didn't think I'd find whatever the fuck you are and have something in common with whatever the fuck you are too, man. Can you make, like, horns come out of my head too?
I can turn you into a parademon once I'm able to get out of here and form the unity with these mother boxes. You can be whatever type of demon you want to be, my son.
And I'll be able to, like, fly and stuff?
Sure, yes. As a parademon, you'd be able to fly, you would have horns, you'd be able to shriek and scream however you want to. It'd be amazing.
Okay, one more question. I'm leaning towards yes, but that other guy came here the other day, and he talked about the burden of free will and some bullshit I didn't understand. And, well, anyway, will I have the burden of free will or not as a parademon?
You will not. That was another friend of mine, actually.
Fucking sweet, sign me up.
All right, well, I guess in that case, do I get to have some free parking?
Sure, man, I don't give a fuck. I get paid minimum wage here.
You will be the first I convert to a parademon.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Thank you. The invasion of Earth will all be thanks to you. Take care.
Sweet, man.
All right, everybody, if you like that sketch right there, we have that plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
This is Deadshot. Show up, sit down, and listen to my boys on superhero stuff you should know. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about you.
Welcome back to us finally finishing up Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, where we left off, it was Snyder 42, Whedon 2. Will Whedon ever get so much as 0.5 of a point before the end of this? We'll see.
Nope.
So, we got... Don't give it away, Andrew. Jesus. So, next part is confronting Steppenwolf and Superman's return. So, we have different confrontations with Steppenwolf. We have the Snyder version that has Aquaman and Cyborg confront Steppenwolf first, with Aquaman being like, hey, remember me? And Wonder Woman joining and leading the way, being like, shall we? Whereas in the Whedon version, she just kind of goes off against him by herself, taunts him about hiding from the fight, and then Aquaman attacks him from behind. Steppenwolf guilt trips Wonder Woman here in the Snyder version about the deaths of her Amazonian sisters, whereas in the Whedon version, he kind of did it a little bit in the tunnel fight earlier.
Steppenwolf does this a lot in this version, which is interesting. It's like he's got a real... He really wants to call out Wonder Woman.
It's roast Wonder Woman.
It really is. He doesn't roast anybody else in the Justice League that much.
He doesn't really care about Aquaman all that much. He's like, I killed a few Atlanteans, but you, Wonder Woman, I'm going to take the piss out of you.
You're not a real Atlantean anyway. Who the fuck are you?
He's
anyway?
only half. He's not a purebred.
You're saying bro every fucking sentence. What is this?
He's not a true Atlantean. So Flash has very different... The Flash has a very different role in both versions. So in the Snyder version, he has an important role of just doing the running around to create the charge for Cyborg, which is very much key.
In the Whedon version, he takes out a few parademons by running through them and gets covered in green blood, and he's just like, this is gross, and then he trips again in the Whedon cut, only to be saved by Batman. Again, this is in the Whedon cut, not the Snyder cut. Also, in this version with the Snyder cut, when he's running around to take the charge, Cyborg goes to the Unity, goes to the mother boxes, and Steppenwolf attacks and interrupts their plan completely, where Flash is ready for the charge, but Victor's not ready because he just got attacked. This creates stakes, as opposed to the Whedon version, where Cyborg's just kind of there, and then Steppenwolf's just like, no, you don't get to do that. Steppenwolf is about to kill Cyborg in both versions. In the Whedon cut, he says Cyborg is not worthy to touch Mother, which sounds so wrong on so many levels. And he tears Cyborg in half, which apparently Ray Fisher tried to argue against. He said that Victor had gone through enough body mutilation that he didn't need to be torn, in half in this movie. But also, it's weird because Whedon has Steppenwolf tear Cyborg apart, and then the next shot is just Cyborg putting himself back together. So
does he keep his dick though in this when he's
point?
Torn apart though? That's the question.
Ask Jeff Johns, because he's the one who cared about that.
Okay, all right, I'll ask him.
Yeah. However, in the Snyder cut, it's Superman who arrives to save Cyborg. So we have completely different entrances to Cyborg. In the Whedon version, Superman's line is off screen because Steppenwolf is like, you're all too weak to see the truth. And Superman's like, I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice.
And the American way. Oh, wait, we don't say that part anymore.
So this dialogue is clearly Steppenwolf says that line to set up Superman's line, because I'm just like, what do you mean you're too weak to see the truth? What truth? And then Superman is like, I believe in truth, and I'm a big fan of justice. I'm just like, why are you saying, like, just hit Steppenwolf? Jesus. In the Snyder cut, the real version, Superman arrives to save Cyborg from Steppenwolf's axe falling on him. And he has that great moment where he's just like, not impressed. This is kind of an echo. There is a comic book panel that people on Instagram have brought up. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Action Comics 314, Steppenwolf tries to hit Superman with his axe, and it doesn't work. And Superman's like, what were you thinking? So
I'm a badass motherfucker.
Superman uses his freeze breath on Steppenwolf's axe, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember Cavill using freeze breath in the previous movie.
I don't think he has. I remember we talked about this.
Then.
And if I may, he kicks too here, right?
He does the 300, like, this is Sparta type kick to Steppenwolf
but
at one
that's
point.
actually kind of a big deal, because I don't think he kicks at all until this point. Maybe I'm wrong, but Superman is really known for the punches.
That's Superman's arc. He comes back from the dead, and now he
learns to kick.
He's used his legs.
Yeah, he went from no legs to legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was cool. Anyway, I jumped way ahead. Keep going, Ben.
He freeze breaths Steppenwolf's. Here's what's funny, because when I saw him freeze breath Steppenwolf's axe in the Snyder cut, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense that would be the first move that Superman would do in this fight, as opposed to in the Whedon cut where he like does it 10 minutes later. I'm just like, why didn't you just lead with that? Also, what's awesome about this is Junkie XL turns the Hans Zimmer Superman theme into kind of a Superman fanfare, which I thought was amazing. That was awesome. And then he replays the Zimmer music from Man of Steel when Clark learns to fly for the first time, when he's beating the shit out of Steppenwolf.
Going to Pound Town, baby.
Pretty much, yeah. There's that meme where it has a picture of Cavill sort of smirking when he's got the heat vision on Steppenwolf, and then it has another picture of Cavill smirking when he comes and finds Lois in the tub, and it says, this is the face where you know that Superman is about to fuck you. Superman only has one line in this final fight, where he says not impressed, as opposed to the Whedon cut, where he has the whole, he's like, is this guy still bothering you, as he attacks Steppenwolf. And then
forgot
at one
about
point,
that.
He has a moment where he talks to Batman, and he's like, well, I knew you didn't bring me back because you like me. And Batman's like, I don't not. So, yeah. Whedon, everybody. Anyway, those are the two different versions of Superman showing up to save the day. Let's go into it. Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's that whole scene, right? Like, I'm always like a Batman guy, right? But like, holy smokes, like he just like swoops right in and the axe like hits him, and it was like just amazing, right? And the whole thing is like, and you're thinking about the thought process of Warner Brothers, and you hear all of the negative reactions in terms of like Superman's not in it enough, right? And that's why they, you know, Warner Brothers goes back and they reshoot it. But I think it's like super important to like dark into the world. We can't do it, and all of a sudden, bam, you know, Superman is like on set, right? You know, but he like pops in and like he's just like so OP, right? And it makes him even more important in that last scene, man. But just that, like, man, just like when he swoops in and that axe hits him and then he uses the freeze breath, like that was it for me. I was like, holy smokes, I'm definitely on board with Team Superman for sure. It's like, oh my god, it was like so good. And then when he uses the heat vision and burns off his little like horn thing or whatever to humiliate him, I was like, oh my god, like it was unbelievable, just unbelievable.
I feel like if we saw this in a theater, that's when people cheer. Is when Superman shows up.
Absolutely. I did, and I was at home by myself.
Yeah, I know.
He did the thing. He did it.
I popped for sure.
Yeah. Zach.
Well, I'm a big fan of truth. I eat justice for breakfast.
Hell yeah, brother.
And I shit the American way.
Oh yeah, red, white, and blue.
I mean, yes. Yeah, it was great. I think that was so much better. I remember still being pretty annoyed with Superman in the Whedon cut. Like, even when he comes back, like, everything he says is just so corny, and it just didn't fit with everything else that had gone on. But yeah, this version of Superman, like, kicked ass. It didn't quite make it feel like everyone else was totally inept either. But it's like he made such a big difference, you know, joining into the fight. And yeah, like you said, all the stakes were higher. Everything that was going on right up until he got there, it didn't seem like, you know, they really had much of a chance. They were holding their own. But yeah, just everybody seemed better. Flash didn't seem, you know, quite as stupid as far as like tripping and all that stuff. It wasn't filled with humor that it needed to be there. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I remember, you know, I had seen the theatrical cut, so I knew pretty much what was going to happen, but I was amazed at how different everything was at this point. I didn't remember much of the theatrical cut as far as this battle, but I had remembered enough to notice those big differences. So yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Andrew.
So, I like Tyler Hoechlin's Superman. I like nice guy Superman. Love it. I want Superman saving cats from trees and all that shit. People make fun of that. I like the Boy Scout shit. What the fuck is wrong with Boy Scouts? Nothing. But if he's fighting fucking Steppenwolf, you want to be this badass. It's really important to be this badass. And I think we accomplished that. He put that Snyder badassness into it, of course. And damn, it's just like going to Pound Town, like MMA style almost. Like, it's really brutal in one part, right? For a shot or two. So I thought that was really awesome. Have we gotten to the part where Flash trips and he's trying to heal himself, or is that next?
No, that's next.
That's next. Okay. Well, other than that, yeah, there were a couple shots in Whedon's one of Superman where he's flying in the air, and I remember this. It's one of the shots I remember the most. He's saving somebody in the air, and Cavill's acting there is like really compassionate and benevolent, and it did have that kind of Superman niceness to it, and I liked that, but it's nothing compared to this Snyder version.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. As I said, like, this is the moment in the theater where, like, if you get to see it in theater, that's where people cheer. And even if you saw it now after seeing it on HBO Max, you would cheer at this point. Like, it's such a great payoff to just knowing or following Superman's journey at this point, and then having him not really be in this movie that much until this point on it. So great entrance to it, and also the fact that you know, everybody, as you said, like, everybody kind of has their own role to play. You got Cyborg with the boxes, you got Batman on the outside trying to make sure that Flash is safe and doing the going the circle, and you've got pretty much everyone else, with Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Superman beating the ever-loving shit out of Steppenwolf. Just once Superman comes in, suddenly it's just a lot easier, and you know, you got he gets passed around like a fucking toy from Wonder Woman to Aquaman to Superman, and just
Ben,
he's fucked. Yeah.
Ben, do you remember we made a point of this when we talked about this in an old episode of the
You wanted everyone to be all in.
Everybody getting a hit in, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was when we were watching this scene, I was like, oh shit, it happened finally.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just the original version. All you had to do is just watch the original version.
This is a team
Who
movie,
knew?
and it ends up the Whedon one ends with like 2 of them doing it or something. It's like I can't remember. Whedon. It's
really just Superman and Wonder Woman,
and
honestly,
that's it, right?
do it.
Did Batman get a punch in?
Not really, but I mean, what's he gonna do?
I wanted him to.
He gets them all in there. He gets all of them in.
I kind of wanted Steppenwolf to just be laying there, and Batman runs up and just like kicks him a little bit, like get one good like hit in there. Just
sticks a batarang through his eyes.
Yeah.
Hold on a second, I need to unzip.
Yep.
So, all right.
Bat Dick, is that what you're talking about?
No, I said he was gonna pee on Steppenwolf.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just to disrespect him.
Yes. Oh, right.
He's gonna teabag him. Snyder 43, Whedon 2. Okay. Next one is, and Dustin, you might want to move your camera down a little bit because we're talking about the Flash. So,
oh right, yeah.
So we have 2 extremely different takes on what the Flash does in this.
Put some pants on, please.
So let's see. In the Whedon cut, Barry's job is to save civilians. In a whole act that seems like, hey, let's just have the guy from Age of Ultron just repeat what they did at Age of Ultron, where we spend 10 minutes saving a whole bunch of people in this area. Flash in the Whedon version is directionally challenged. He's just like, God, I hope this is east, and then it turns out he's in the wrong direction, and then later on he's just like, this is east as he's going. So Flash in the Whedon version doesn't even know directions. And then it has the gag of Flash saving the truck with the Russian family, where Superman saves the building, which was kind of fun. For, you know, not gonna lie, that wasn't bad. It's just a tonal shift compared to what we saw the original version. They obviously, none of these civilians would be around in the first place in the original Snyder Cut. So what happens in the Snyder Cut is Barry gets wounded by the smartest parademon in Apocalypse, and the team fails to stop the Unity. Darkseid arrives, and the Unity basically wipes out the entire Justice League except for Flash, who stops time and saves all of them. And this is the moment where Barry Allen truly becomes the Flash. It is one of the best parts of the movie. We've technically seen the Flash time travel in order to save other heroes. In like, it happened in one of the crossovers for CW, where like they killed Arrow and Hawkman and Hawkgirl and like everybody, and Flash like went back in time and saved everybody. But it wasn't done like this, where like literally every step he takes is rewinding time, and everything is forming around him, and he calls back to what his dad told him about like making his own future. And how like now he has a place of belonging.
Literally,
these people.
Yeah,
literally making his own future. Snyder brought up Warner Brothers did not want this at all. They did not want Snyder to have Flash time travel in this movie.
What's the reasoning behind that? Did they say?
They didn't say it. They're like, we don't want you to do time travel. By the way, Flashpoint is coming in 2020.
It gets maybe in Devil's Advocate they think that it's just too messy with time travel. Like you can just do it too easily. You make a mistake, somebody dies. You can bring him back to life or something like that. But Flash could be hesitant about this anyway, because you're not just playing with like your friends' lives. You're playing with the entire fucking universe's timeline. So. It's a lot to consider there.
Right, but Barry knows this. That's why he's like, you got to break the rule. Like, if he has that as a rule, he knows that he can do that. He just doesn't want to. And then, unless he's forced to, and he is forced to here. But yeah, I mean, it's weird that they didn't want to do it because they really want to do Flashpoint. And then also, one of the big nostalgia movies for DC is Superman the movie that literally ends with Superman going back in time. So I'm just like, if anything, I like. Honestly, this might be sacrilege. I like the time travel use in this better than Superman the movie.
Oh, I might agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it was just amazing. So instead of time travel, we got the Flash saving the Russian family and then saying Dostoevsky to the Russian girl and then running off, and that was their genius replacement.
Who says Dostoevsky?
Flash, because he doesn't know any. That's the only Russian word he knows is the name of that author.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
So
forgot about
anyway.
that.
Dustin, I noticed you were representing Flash with your shirt.
Rep it.
Let's start with you.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, oh my god. Like, I remember watching the Whedon, version and coming out and like just thinking, okay, Cyborg is worthless, and I hate the Flash. Like, you made me hate the Flash. And the fact that you let CW write Flash better than like your on-screen version is just like disgusting. Because they won't even let CW do a Batman show. They're like, we're not gonna let you touch Batman, but we'll let them do a way better Flash. Like, and I just remember being just like so disgusted coming out. I'm like dude's superpower is to run fast, and all he does is trip the whole movie, right? And, I just remember being like, and you can tell now I'm still like disgusted, like I'm upset that they treated him that way, because in this version, like the majority of the characters are godlike to some degree, And not only that, like, and I think the reason they cut it is just for time, because we were trying to make a 2-hour movie, which means we got to put all this stuff in and have it fail, and then have him rewind it and go it back. So we got to condense this down. But like ultimately, like once again, this ties into like the Knightmare scene and like Flashpoint. Like it's showing you the map for like everything that's coming, next. Like, This is it. This is I've time traveled, and I'm gonna need to do it again, and I'm gonna do it and mess things up, and then create different multiverses, and like it's this big moment that is gonna lead to like everything else, and just like really just like lets you know like who he is, and he's the future of the franchise, and they just destroy him and made me just like disgusted with him. And that's a hard job to do, right? Like, how can you make somebody hate the Flash, right?
Is Flash your number two, real quick? He's number two after Batman?
No, he's, well, I don't know. Maybe, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And to be honest, like I was always a Marvel Comics guy. I absolutely love Batman, but like over the years, I've gotten more and more into the DC stuff. But like to me, like if you're gonna give me like a superpower, it'd either be telepathy or the super speed, right? So I just feel like even when he's against Superman, right? Like Superman can't touch him. Like you can be Superman, but you just can't touch Flash. Like how do you ever beat Flash, right?
That's
like,
true. That's true.
It just, I don't know, man. And it just the whole thing was ridiculous. And then you see this, and you're like, oh man, like Snyder had this amazing vision for the Flash, and like understood him and how important he was to the whole film, man. And like he's a god, right? It's it's that whole like tie back, right? Like Darkseid comes 5,000 years ago and he's fighting the gods, and now like we're here like fighting like the modern day gods, and it's Cyborg and Aquaman and Flash, and they all get that moment, and it's just like it was such a great redemption for Cyborg and Flash, like both of them, it's just amazing, and that's the moment you realize like, oh my God, like WB had their hands in it so much and made this Frankenstein monster of a movie. And it really just pulls back the curtain and lets you know, like, man, I feel sorry for David Ayer, like all that stuff he's talking about and the hands in it, So it was really eye-opening to watch that movie. Like I knew it was going to be good, but I just did not expect it to be that dramatically different, So yeah, that definitely, like for me, that whole Flash thing was like movie redemption, like overall. And I'm a huge Batman guy, but the fact that they like made me like Flash again, I was like, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Awesome, Zach.
Yeah, I agree with Dustin. I remember after watching the theatrical cut, I did not like Flash. I did not like Aquaman, and I was pretty indifferent towards Cyborg. And now it just totally redeemed him and made him an irreplaceable part of the team. I mean, just within that one moment, if it wasn't for the Flash, everything would be over. So it really made him, it gave him so much more importance than Whedon did, which was to treat him like a kind of like a side character of just like, well, go save the family, and that'll be it. Like, you can't do anything really useful or important. It just, I don't understand how you could cut what happened in the Snyder film and then, I guess, reshoot something just worthless like we see. It just is, it's mind-boggling. But the actual Speed Force moment is just so awesome and visually just so interesting to look at. And like you said, that is such a cool image of every footstep that he makes. It's like the ground is reappearing back under him. And me watching this movie after having seen the theatrical cut, whenever they lose, I was like, oh God, like, what is this? Like, this didn't happen in the version I saw. So again, it was still playing with my expectations, and something totally new happened that I hadn't seen before. So yeah, they did that better than anything I've ever seen on the CW. So what you were saying is, originally they fucked it up so much that we all still love the Grant Gustin Flash. Now we see this, and I mean, I still love the CW Flash, so especially the first few seasons, but visually they did it so much more artistically that I think it was just, it was a joy to watch. And again, it really empowers that character in a way that, was taken away originally.
Awesome. Andrew.
Yeah, just before that, whenever he gets hurt and he's trying to force his Flash healing ability, right? His acting is really good there. Like, I really felt the emotion from that. I think he seems
you feel his pain.
Yeah, I feel his pain. It's like those scenes in, well, maybe not quite as bad, but in the opening scenes in D-Day and Saving Private Ryan, like those scenes are like, damn, it's, I don't know, something connected there for me, I guess, but it was kind of visceral, and I felt he was emoting really well, I guess. Thought that was really great. And yeah, I mean, we just talked about Superman possibly being a little OP at times. That's always going to be a conversation. But he can't, other than fucking the Chris Reeve version, generally doesn't have any time travel powers. Like, it can be argued that Flash is the most powerful, actually, because he can avoid all of Superman's punches if he wanted, and he does. He's like narrowly avoiding, like in some scenes, during the slow-mo scenes, he's avoiding all of Superman's shit, which is really cool. And it's like, Flash could be most powerful, but nobody talks about it. And them tapping into the Speed Force in a big way in this is really cool. And yes, he could do this every time if they wanted, but but that gets into like his internal struggle as a superhero with these kind of powers. Is like, again, it's not just a Spider-Man thing. It's in every superhero thing. Like, with this kind of power, how much responsibility should I be taking? And this is he's not just saving Superman here. He's rewriting the entire timeline of the entire universe. There's a lot of big ideas with the Flash, I think. And this is not something he wants to pull out all the time. This is definitely like a hopefully, what he's thinking, at least probably in this particular scenario, is a once in a lifetime thing. But I wonder if we'll see it again. We probably see it again.
Flashpoint
for different reasons, but this is not something that you want to do lightly, of course. And it's like the editing also in the really, really emotional editing whenever he sees Iris. It's kind of back to that editing too. It's like super emotional, really artistically done, really, really well done. It was great.
Awesome. I love the sequence. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, and there's so many great moments in general, but definitely, like, this is the Flash scene to me of this whole thing, and it's just incredible, as Dustin was saying, just how this thing got butchered when you just compare the two different versions of Flash. It's just like, why? Who thinks that this is actually a better version, the theatrical version, off of this? So, Snyder 44, Whedon 2. What else can we say about it, really? I mean, it's just, we know what's better. We don't really have to talk that more about how much better it is. There's not much more I can add other than what these three gentlemen said. So, let's go into the defeat of Steppenwolf. So in the Snyder Cut, Victor, thanks to Flash, is able to go and connect with the Unity, and he is challenged by visions of his dead parents, tempting him and prompting him. And he ends up basically rejecting this life that they provide, this dream life that they are trying to tempt him with. It says, I'm not broken and I'm not alone, which is an amazing emotional moment and likely ties into what Snyder's daughter was going through at the writing of that movie. On that, the Whedon Cut, of course, gets rid of all of this, and just the only thing that Whedon Cut has from this moment is Cyborg and Superman working together to separate the boxes. However, Whedon then adds jokes of them lying on the floor and Superman saying, "Never mind, I want to die," and Cyborg talking about how his toes hurt and how that doesn't make any sense. So,
whoa.
Thank you, Whedon.
Weird.
Yeah. We have different versions of the end of Steppenwolf. So in the Snyder version, Steppenwolf is rightfully taken out by Aquaman, who impales him with the quindent, and Wonder Woman beheads him with the sword. Making sense since he basically slaughtered all these Atlanteans and Amazonians. It seems like that.
Right. Yeah. Internal logic there is really good. Yeah.
They're the ones that do it. All Superman really does is punch them, almost as if to say, like, how dare you, and that's about it. Steppenwolf in the Whedon Cut basically gets defeated because Superman finally uses his freeze breath to destroy the axe at this point, after everything that's been going down. And Whedon reuses the shot of Wonder Woman with a sword to behead Steppenwolf, except in the Whedon version, it's to cut the axe in that. The parademons then get a sniff of Steppenwolf's fear and attack him because he's scared now, which feels to me like Scar getting taken out by the hyenas in The Lion King. And Steppenwolf was then sent back to Apocalypse in the boom tube, prompting Cyborg to deliver the most unenthusiastic booyah ever in the Whedon version.
He's in the sunken place when he's saying that line.
Yeah. And then in the Snyder version, the head travels through the portal into Darkseid, who steps on his head. And they're apparently, the execs did not want Snyder to show Darkseid at this point either. They didn't want a Darkseid coda. And Snyder put it in anyway. But yeah, they didn't even want him to have Darkseid in it, which makes it even more sus that they, supposedly cancel the New Gods because they don't, because of this appearance from Darkseid, trying to blame it on the Snyder Cut, when in reality, it had nothing to do with that. There's also a criticism of Darkseid not using his Omega beams through the portal to kill the Justice League right then and there, but I would argue, obviously his plan is to recruit Superman, because look at what happens in the Knightmare vision. So I don't think he actually does want to kill them in that moment. But, I don't know, that's just my opinion on it. Anyway, on to you guys. The defeat of Steppenwolf, beheading versus the Disney villain ending. What do you guys think? On to Dustin.
I mean, definitely Snyder's version, just because this is also, like, once again, we're talking about Flash redemption, we're talking about Cyborg redemption, and, like, that whole... and then also I'm thinking too, like, they all have mommy issues, right? Because we're talking about, Flash time traveling. Eventually, it's going to be because of his mother, and then you have this scene with Cyborg, and it's like, come be with us, and we can give your mother and your family back to you. And it was a really good scene, and then also it makes Cyborg important. So obviously, it's amazing. And then all the Darkseid stuff is amazing. And just like you said, I had people commenting on my post, and they're like blaming Zack Snyder for that movie being canceled. And it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And I was like, do not let Warner Brothers insult your intelligence, because they went ahead and made a Robert Pattinson Batman, even though there's Ben Affleck Batman running around. Like, there's plenty of characters that we've seen, and they've made movies, and they decided to keep making movies in different versions. So it's just ridiculous that they can kind of try and offset blame onto him for using Darkseid. Like, why would you not use Darkseid, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Your whole point is to make money, right? And you're wanting to compete with the MCU, and this dude is delivering money, right? And you're like, nah, I don't want that money this week. So, it's ridiculous. But yeah, definitely Snyder, just for the Cyborg aspect of it, and including Darkseid for sure.
Zach.
Man, I mean, Steppenwolf being killed was a big plus for me, because I remembered that he just kind of went away in the boom tube in the Whedon version, and I was like, oh, they actually killed him in this version, so that was pretty awesome, and I really liked that shot of his head well, I mean, his whole body, but his head, like, going through and sliding under Darkseid's foot in that gross moment where he stomps on it. I think it was his other horn breaking that was grosser to me than, like, any gooey sounds or anything like that. I was like, ew, it was just kind of like, I don't know, that part was really awesome. I thought that was cool. And, it was just such a better ending for him. Like, he deserved that as much, damage and death and pain that he had inflicted throughout the movie. Again, he did actually have a character arc in this version, but he was much more brutal, and we saw more of the, loss of life that was caused by him. And I thought, there's a lot of times when I don't like bad guys to die in superhero movies because I feel like that's not how it is in the comics. And I did like Steppenwolf better in this movie, but this is one of those times when I was like totally fine with him dying. Yeah, I think it's usually the Batman villains and Spider-Man villains. I never want them to die. I'm like, oh, just lock them up, let them come back later. But yeah, it seemed very fitting. So it was a much better ending for his character.
Agreed. Andrew.
So we're at the part where he says, "I'm not broken."
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah. This is like the best part of the movie to me. We have a completed character arc, the best character arc. Snyder had the choice between 6 heroes. He chooses to focus mainly on this one to give him the most power in the whole thing, which is interesting. It could have been any one of them, but he chooses Cyborg, which is cool. Really the least known one in the popular sphere, as it were, and really cool. And I think that I thought about that a bit after watching it. Like, why would he say a line like that? What made him think that he wasn't broken anymore? A guy that's been literally blown to bits. And it's this timeline of him seeing his father almost die, being threatened by somebody in the beginning, right? By the parademons or something. And then they have that moment together. And then they sort of are cool after that. There's like some sort of an arc there where, he was like, what is it? Like, I hated my dad, but not enough to where I wouldn't save him. It was a come to reality moment. Like, what's important in life? I can hate him, but that's not really, what's more important is he's still alive. But then he actually does die, and he has to go through that. He sees that. But the fact that he could forgive, he sort of forgives his father, it seems like. Right? He forgives his father after realizing what he realized whenever he saved his dad. I think this is kind of the internal logic here. And the fact that he could forgive his dad, the person that he hated at first, because it seemed like he didn't really want to be saved. He'd rather be dead than be this robot, but through the acceptance of his dad, he accepts himself as well. And so then he's not broken. And he says, "I'm not broken." Like, you can't manipulate me with that shit, So I think that's what makes this so powerful. That's what makes it's a really powerful scene. I think this is my favorite scene in the movie.
Well, and just hearing you say that too, right? It's like, it's this idea of like the whole time he's like, I'm a monster, I'm a robot.
Yeah.
But at the end, it shows you just how human he is. Like, that's his humanity coming through, that ability to forgive, and then like also forgive himself and be okay with himself as well.
Accept himself, accept his father.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. And I think this all works here. And it's great. My favorite part. Other parts here, I do wish that they fought Darkseid directly. That was like my one disappointment with this movie. I wanted Superman to go to pound town on Darkseid. I wanted to blam, like, fuck your Omega beams and shit. But other than that, I mean, we got that incredible Cyborg sequence. So
I also feel like it's kind of like a reoccurring theme, like throughout the movie too, because even when Superman comes back, Superman's this person who like wants to be, like, he's a god, but he wants to be human. Like, he wants to be part of like that, humanity or whatever. And I think there's this like even though they all have the individual character arcs, they're all kind of like struggling with the same things like internally, but like a little bit differently. So I think that strive for humanity is kind of like a running thread through a lot of the characters as well.
Yes.
Mark Bernard, and who I usually agree with, but not really on this movie. On Fat Man Beyond with him and Kevin Smith, he wasn't a big fan of this version. He's still acknowledging it was better than the theatrical version, but he had some weird tweet I think I read in terms of people who were getting at him for, I guess, praising or liking Godzilla versus Kong, but having criticisms for Justice League. And he said that Justice League expected more because it had more ambition. That it was. He really described it as some sort of like treatise of power or something like that. And I'm like, Justice League to me, despite having 6 superpowered people, 7 if you count Martian Manhunter, and that doesn't even include some of the villains, it's not about power at all. To me, Zack Snyder's Justice League is about healing.
Right.
It's about people who come from broken backgrounds who come together and form their own families. Like, as I pointed out in a previous episode, like every single person in this movie has... And as Dustin's pointing out too, every single person in this movie comes from a broken family. One or more of their parents are gone in this. So Cyborg's not alone because he has the Justice League. Batman's not alone because he has the Justice League. Like everybody in their own ways heals, and I think that Flash literally saves the world while he's healing. Like he saves the universe while he's healing from a wound.
Physically and that's true.
Yeah, and he heals the world. He heals the universe by going back in time. Like, that's what this theme is about. This movie has nothing to do with power, in my opinion. Batman versus Superman, that was a movie about power. This is about healing. This is about becoming whole again, about not being broken despite feeling broken from the past. That's the power of this movie, from what I can see. And I think another triumph of this is this moment with Cyborg, because it's extremely rare, in my opinion, that you have 2 back-to-back amazing sequences in a movie. Usually they're spaced out. Usually it's just like, okay, you get the amazing sequence and then you get a little bit time to step back and breathe. But you very intelligently have a very big spectacle moment that's still very emotional, but then you follow it up with kind of a more quiet emotional moment for a separate character. And they're both amazing and they're both great, and the fact that they're back to back is rare in just any of these types of movies, and the fact that both of them are just standout parts of this movie is fantastic. Snyder 45, Whedon 2. Whedon getting a point from me.
Well, Ben, you said a lot there, but there's something I'm confused about. Who are these people who like Godzilla versus Kong?
Dude,
didn't want to say anything.
It made twice as much money for HBO as Zack Snyder's Justice League. Twice as much.
Oh, that wasn't me streaming it.
Hate to burst your bubble, but the fans, look it up. The fans are out there.
Yeah. Well, and the thing, and I'm a huge Godzilla fan, but they just keep following up with stinker after stinker. And I know that in the theaters, it made almost as much money as the last one on the opening weekend, right? But all the theaters aren't open. Like Regal isn't even open yet. They don't open till like April 23rd, So. It blew me away. Like I was just like, that movie was so bad. I watched it, but it was terrible.
Yep, I gave it one watch, pretty much. It was, I don't know. It was
lizards fighting like ninjas.
Yeah, I just wish it was only fighting. Like that's all I really care about. Those movies do have a really hard time with their human characters, but it's I would rather watch Matthew Broderick's Godzilla movie again before I watch Kong versus Godzilla.
Damn, that bad?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. But
anyway, I got a soft spot for Matthew Broderick.
I know I derail this all the time, but let's go.
I've not seen any of the MonsterVerse. Anyway, open floor on this one. We get the big hero shot with the whole team in both versions. In the Snyder Cut, we see Superman helping Batman get to the top, whereas in the Whedon version, we don't have that. In both versions, Flash and Cyborg sort of do a slow-motion fist bump together, so maybe that's what Whedon was trying to plant with that fist bump joke in the cemetery with Flash in the Whedon Cut. Snyder's version has no dialogue whatsoever. Whedon's, however, does have dialogue, where Superman says, I'm glad I didn't miss this, and Wonder Woman's like, so am I, and Batman's like, yeah, now she's glad. Some joke, I guess, about her not being happy. And then Whedon also adds a bunch of random plants
growing around Russia now that Steppenwolf's gone. I don't know how that works. And the Russian family finds the plants.
See, his is about healing now. The plants, the earth is healing, bro.
Here's where, and this might be tying to what you were thinking about earlier, Zach, about the Flying Fox. The Flying Fox comes back for them in the Snyder version, as opposed to the Whedon version where they're looking out over the sort of the plantation stuff that's been growing around. So I'm not sure, was that what you were bringing up, Zach, in terms of like, was the Flying Fox destroyed?
I thought the Flying Fox was just totally destroyed and incapable of flight whenever you see it crash and Batman comes out with the Batmobile. So then, like, whenever you see it again, I'm like, oh, did I miss something? I thought for a minute maybe he was in a smaller plane that came out of the Flying Fox that had the Batmobile in it, and that crashed. But I was like, I think that was the only continuity thing for me, that I thought I missed something. Yeah, but like you said, if it wasn't wrecked that badly, then I guess I could fly out of there with it.
I feel like it kind of just crashes like on the the bottom's fucked up, I think, but maybe that's about it.
Maybe Cyborg fixed it.
Fly.
Cyborg fixed it off screen and it flew again.
Maybe that's another thing. Yeah, that's true too. That's true. Okay, so we'll be quick when it comes to this epilogue because it's really only one small scene that are kind of a major sequence where we can compare. But the epilogue is called A Father Twice Over. Very poignant considering Zack Snyder's personal story that ties into this. But in the Snyder Cut, it's Cyborg listening to his dad's tape after he puts it back together again. Whereas in the Whedon Cut, it's Lois typing an article and talking about darkness and light and finding light in the darkness, which, if you step back and think about it, makes you wonder what the hell kind of article is she writing on that. In the Snyder Cut, Silas basically apologizes to Victor here about not being there, and we sort of see the ends of each of the characters. So in the Snyder Cut, Aquaman meets with Volko and Mara, and says, I have to go see my dad, which is probably influenced from seeing how Victor's affected by losing his dad. In the Whedon Cut, we just see a CG version of Momoa diving into the water like a dolphin. I kind of wish there was more to the Snyder Cut version of him talking to Volko and Mara. I feel like maybe there might have been more dialogue there than just having Amber Heard and William Dafoe just stand there, but maybe I'm wrong. Both versions have Bruce deciding to turn Wayne Manor into the Hall of Justice, which is cool. Whedon Cut ends with Bruce agreeing that there's room for more, whereas in the Snyder Cut, Bruce says, "With room for more, God help us." Flash, in both versions, tells his dad that he got a job at the crime lab. However, the Whedon Cut kind of has a very quick scene where Barry says that he got a recommendation at the crime lab from a friend, which is implied to be Bruce. And Henry Allen is just like, oh, look at you go. As opposed to the Snyder Cut, where Henry just announces it to the rest of the penitentiary and, and jokes about how he taught his son nothing he knows, which is a more poignant version of the scene. Both versions have Clark thanking Bruce for buying the bank in order to help Martha Kent get her house back. And he says he was apologizing for his mistake being his actions during BVS. There is a change in both versions, a very subtle change of what Martha and Lois are carrying. In the Whedon Cut, they're carrying cardboard boxes because Martha's moving back in. In the Snyder Cut, Lois is carrying a bassinet to carry a baby.
Wow, I did not notice that.
I missed that too.
Yeah, and Bruce's line when they go to the house is different in the Whedon Cut versus the Snyder Cut. In the Whedon Cut, they're just talking about how he bought the bank. In the Snyder Cut, Bruce says, "Congratulations, by the way," to Clark, as in like, "Congratulations, your father."
Right.
So that's cool. In the Snyder Cut, Cyborg's at the gravesite of his parents and finally basically goes naked in front of the thing, and he's finally free to be out in the open and flies up, which is awesome and empowering. As opposed to the Whedon.
Self-acceptance.
Yes. The Whedon Cut is different, where he's just got a new body and he's talking to his dad because his dad's still alive in this version.
He's got a dick in that one, though,
I know. Dustin, the reason why we keep bringing this up is that in the previous version, which hasn't been released yet, Ray Fisher is on record that Warner Brothers made them reshoot the origin of Cyborg scene to highlight the fact that Cyborg has a dick. In the Whedon Cut, Cyborg has legs during the origin sequence when they reshot that. Even though it contradicts the continuity of the origin sequence of Cyborg in BVS, they reshot that just to say Cyborg has genitals. Ridiculous.
Okay.
It's weird. It's weird, isn't it? It's a bit on the strange side, one could say.
Anyways, we get two very. We have different.
Still laughing, bro.
I know. All right. We get two very different end shots of Batman, because in both versions we get Gordon flashing the bat signal, but in the Whedon cut it is Batman on a rooftop and he sees the Batwing, as opposed to the Snyder cut that has Batman on the Dark Knight Returns tank. And then if you zoom in really closely, behind him is a bunch of the mutants being tied up, the mutants from the comic book. They are there in the shot. I suspect that this is all CG. Like, I suspect that both shots... I suspect that both shots are actually Snyder. It's just that Snyder just like, what the hell? Let me throw in the Dark Knight Returns Batmobile in there. That's my suspicion in terms of why that part is in there. Because it's just like, why not? You know, why not? Wonder Woman's ending is different. In the Whedon version, she stops a bunch of criminals, and so she has them all tied up outside as she's talking to police, or they're talking to police. And in the Snyder cut, she is sort of shown to be yearning to go back to Themyscira as she's, you know, holding the arrow and looking out. Flash runs in both versions in his final shot, but in the Whedon cut, he's just running, as opposed to the Snyder version, where there's like a sort of a slow-mo of him almost having relief on his face, which is kind of cool. And then we end with different pieces of dialogue, obviously, between Silas and Lois on the whole, you know, Lois saying, you know, you just have to look up in the sky for hope, as opposed to Silas saying, like, the time for Victor to live and be out in the open is now. And then we get a shirt rip in both versions of Superman, obviously with different colors. Obviously the Whedon version has the classic suit, as I said, but there's no explanation in either version of how Clark Kent is supposed to explain him being back from the dead to the public. However, I suspect I know why. Based off of what Snyder revealed for his original sequel plans, which is a little bit of a preview for the next episode where we cover that stuff. So anyway, we got two different versions of this epilogue ending in the Superman shirt rip. What are your thoughts on this? Starting with Dustin, now that he's recovered from laughing about Cyborg's dick.
Bro,
he's still recovering.
Like, it begins and ends with the tank and the mutants. Like, we don't even have to talk about it, man. Like that's it. That was like the money right there for me. Like, no way, right? Yeah, unbelievable.
Zach?
Okay, I agree. That was the topper. I could tell it was CGI Batman, but I was just floored by that because that's some of the, I think, best imagery behind Batman versus Superman is its relation to the Dark Knight Returns, and of course, being able to see that was just very, very cool. And of course, the Snyder Cut's version, I feel like everything ends a little bit more cleanly and ends on a better emotional note that relates better tonally to the whole film. And my wife said the same thing about Superman. Like, she's like, whoa, how the hell are they going to explain Clark Kent coming back to life? And I was like, well, maybe in that shot, he's not Clark Kent. He's just like, just a civilian. He's just in a suit, and they just wanted to have that shot there. But overall, everything was so much better, just like you talked about it. It ended everyone's arc in the best way possible instead of squandering it like it was in the theatrical cut.
Yeah. Andrew?
I've never read Dark Knight Returns.
What?
I've seen the animated one.
Oh,
but
no.
That's it.
You criticize Zach for not having seen Shazam.
That's right.
I've seen the movies, but I've not read the comic. But so I don't have that tie like you guys have, I guess.
We're going to get so many negative comments.
Yep, here they come.
YouTube.
I'm sorry, everybody. I am sorry, internet.
This show is fucked.
I'm sorry. That's one I have not read.
To be fair, the cartoon's great.
It's good.
The animated version is great, yeah.
Good.
But everything ends on a great emotional tone, like everybody else has been saying. And I don't know about the Clark Kent thing. I mean, they'll explain it with some shit like he was on a fucking reporter's mission or whatever the fuck, and he was, I don't know, tied up somehow that way. They'll figure out something. It's not a big deal. You know, it's not movie ending.
It was
or
a really
anything
long.
like that.
It was a really long sports event that he had to cover, and he just now got back.
Yeah. Those
Perry, it was a 2-month-long soccer match over in Paraguay.
Yeah, exactly.
This girl's softball game really went on for a long time.
That curling.
Sorry,
event.
I was believed dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with everybody about this stuff in terms of just how everybody. It feels like everybody earned where they end up in this. So that's awesome. And also, I just realized this: if Batman has the Dark Knight Returns tank Batmobile, if there is a Justice League 2, guess what Batmobile Batman's going to be using throughout that movie? So, Snyder 47, Whedon 2. Okay, so we got only a couple more things here because we're now into like post credits. Like technically, this movie is done. Once Superman does the shirt rip, that's the end of both versions, story wise.
Oh,
however,
by the way, pinning that real quick. I'm sorry. One thing I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up. Sorry about that, Ben.
Yeah.
Is they did like what Superman for all seasons or something? Like no one looks in the sky anymore, and then they kind of
Secret Origin.
Secret Origin, right? They took that. They had that whole kind of thing for the Whedon cut, right? Was that in there?
Yeah, which makes
sort
sense.
of?
As Jeff Johns wrote Secret Origin, and he also did the rewrites with Whedon on the Whedon cut. So that probably makes sense.
I remember making that parallel, which I kind of like that, but I'm not enough to give points, and it ultimately probably makes no sense. It's been a while since I've seen it.
It's not as good because there's never the whole like people never look up in the sky thing from
Yeah.
Secret Origin.
Yeah.
So just her writing "look up in the sky" at the end is just kind of a nice Easter egg to look up in the sky from the
That's
classic
right. That's
radio
right.
show. It's not an arc for Metropolis like it is in Secret Origin.
Right,
It's kind of just
right.
Meh.
It's an arc for the whole city, basically, for mankind in a sense, in Secret Origin.
Yeah, but not so much in the Justice League Whedon cut. In both versions, we get a bit of a tease with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, but they're very different in a way. We get a little bit more in the Snyder Cut of Lex Luthor's sort of decoy in there. We get some exterior shots of Arkham, and then we got different dialogue between Lex and Deathstroke. In the Snyder version, Lex indicates that the doctors at Arkham helped cure him, which is very interesting and could explain why Lex never really makes the same vocal tics that he has in BVS with the
he's over that. That's his character arc.
Yes, that's his character arc. Lex brings up that Deathstroke is willing to kill Batman free of charge and guesses it's, quote, an eye for an eye, implying that Batman is responsible for Deathstroke's missing eye. So that could be cool. We will dive a little bit more into that because we definitely do have an episode planned for covering the unmade, or hopefully soon to be made at some point, Batfleck movie. But obviously I'm waiting because Joe Manganiello in like every interview spills more and more beans about the plan. So I just want him to have like 10 more interviews so that we have even more information by the time we do that.
He wants that shit made, dude. He's doing some Ryan Reynolds fucking Deadpool leak stuff.
Yeah. No, he absolutely that's his right. But yeah, in the Whedon cut, you can tell there's reshoots because they have an extreme close-up on Eisenberg's face when he says, shouldn't we have a League of our own, in terms of implying the Injustice League or the Legion of Doom, as opposed to the Snyder Cut where he gives Batman's secret identity to Deathstroke to set up Ben Affleck's The Batman movie, where Deathstroke is on a vendetta against Batman. So, any thoughts in terms of the differences between the Lex and Deathstroke stuff, starting with Dustin?
I don't know necessarily about the difference, but like I just gotta say, like I love Jesse Eisenberg.
What? What?
I know that's
God
not
damn, you guys are the two motherfuckers on the planet that like that guy.
Hey, Wolfie also likes him. Wolfie also likes him.
3 people on this planet Earth. Half of them be associated with this podcast.
I swear, man. Like I just think of it as like Mark Zuckerberg like turning into like Lex Luthor. I thought
Mark
it was
Zuckerberg
so
doesn't
great.
sound like Pee Wee Herman.
I
though.
think he's fantastic. I'm like, and everybody's like, I want the Deathstroke movie, but I'm just like, I want more Lex Luthor too. But unfortunately, I think he is just like burned so bad on like everything that went down. I don't think we'll ever see him like again, or it'd be really hard to like get him back. And I do feel like the interaction between him and Deathstroke in the Snyder Cut was more of a I'm kind of fearful of you, and I hope this works out in my best interest, right? Like he was a little skeptical about bringing Deathstroke on board, so like I did pick up on that. I think that was a little bit different, but yeah, it's fantastic. And the other thing too, I didn't know, and this is crazy, but like Deathstroke was like Flash from the original
Flash Thompson
Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight me either.
He definitely looked too old to be in high school, along with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
45-year-old
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, exactly.
Flash Thompson.
Tobey Maguire will defeat Deathstroke in the Batman movie.
Yes.
Oh man! All right, Zach.
Well, just the addition of an exterior shot of Arkham alone gives him a point for that. And yeah, it actually made that interaction with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor worthwhile instead of just being like, oh, let's start a league of our own. Instead of like some smarmy like comic book supervillain like, oh, you're really like, you know, giving an important piece of information to a dangerous person like that. You know, that was really cool. So, yep, obviously they're going to get the point. Snyder wins.
Once again. Andrew.
I'm going to reach across the aisle a little bit on this Lex issue. He's a lot better. He's a lot better in this.
Yes.
Than he is in BBS. He's way less annoying. I accept him more. Whatever character arc he had is working. So I like that. He does feel like a little bit more like a legit evil genius. And man, that fucking Deathstroke suit, bro. God damn, that's a great suit. I think that's one of the best suits I've seen on screen. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think, God, dude, they really need to make that movie with Manganiello.
It's such a waste that they gave him that suit for one fucking two scenes technically with Knightmare, but yeah.
It's such a good suit. It's so badass. Snyder needs to do it, or somebody. I think he'll really kill it with, with making like we've said before. Snyder would be great with the Punisher. He'd be great with Deathstroke. Like these really characters that just really need to be badass no matter what. Like even with Batman, he can be badass, but he's got the kill rule, and Snyder is tripping over that a little bit. But with Deathstroke, he can really go Snyder Unleashed with it. So that would be sweet. Love the look of it, really do. It's I mean Snyder again, of course. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you think that Lex peed in the jacuzzi on that?
Yes, he did. No, that's actually what Deathstroke is drinking.
That's what I was thinking
like,
too.
All right, cheers.
He's watching it really closely. He's like,
Step inside my jacuzzi, Slade.
You better not be serving me urine.
Heavens no, Slade.
Granny's beach tea. It is really interesting because I'm with Andrew when it comes to just like I just think the sheer fact that Eisenberg is bald now and is in a snazzy suit and has less of the verbal tics automatically, so I'm just like I actually do want to see more of this Lex Luthor. I'm not gonna lie. I want like if they can get Leto to come back despite people giving him so much shit after Suicide Squad, then I think maybe if it's Zack, maybe he can bring back Eisenberg to be Lex Luthor and be this Lex Luthor, the post-Arkham, post-BVS Lex Luthor, who now looks a lot more traditional. Again, I'm just like the sheer imagery of it kind of helps a bit. I don't know, not to be too superficial, but I mean, I can't help it. Like that looks like Lex Luthor. If I see him on the rooftop of LexCorp, except he looks like that, and he's like got a piece of kryptonite in his hands, I'm just gonna be like, oh my god, like that is Lex.
Yeah, that would be the shit. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Deathstroke, definitely agree on that type of stuff. Fantastic evolution from Flash Thompson to Deathstroke, and it is definitely going to be cool to talk about that Batman and Deathstroke movie when we get around to it. But again, I'm waiting for Manganiello to get a few more interviews to spill more beans on that because he's the one. Ben Affleck hasn't said shit in terms of the story. It's all Manganiello being like, so here's what was going to happen.
Manganiello's probably like, they're probably like, it's in your contract to not spill the beans on this, but he's probably like, the contract? Nobody gives a shit about this contract, apparently, like...
Nobody gave him a movie.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, this Justice League contract went out the fucking door, seemingly, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, all those rules with that movie are probably fucking gray as hell at this point.
Well, It's also, as we were talking about beforehand when we talked about the behind the scenes stuff, Snyder is breaking the rules by providing all the stuff that happens after this sequence. So everything from the Knightmare epilogue to the Martian Manhunter scene is all new. It was all stuff that was shot during COVID. So, it's just to dispel...
In his house.
This is just to dispel people saying, like, oh, Snyder needed all this money to complete the movie. The movie was never complete. Like, well, no, the movie had all the raw footage complete. You just needed the visual effects added. He just wanted to add a little bit more footage towards the end because he doesn't know if he's ever going to touch this stuff again. Hopefully he will, but he doesn't even know. So to me, as far as I'm concerned, this movie's over once we get the shirt rip. Everything else is kind of just a nice, Snyder being like, here's where I could have gone.
Yeah.
It's on you guys to see if I can go there. But if not, then you at least get this. So, as I said, Knightmare epilogue, new footage shot during the COVID reshoots. So it is actually shot on a studio. He threatened to shoot it in his backyard. He says, we don't want you to do that, is what they said. And he said, I'm going to do it anyway, put up some green screens and shoot in my backyard, but they didn't have to do it.
Okay.
Affleck and Leto shoot separately. Mm-hmm. That's why there's no shot of both of them at the same time.
Interesting. Okay.
I had read
at
that.
most, it pans from one to the next. But yeah, sadly, because that would have been awesome. An awesome two-shot. The Joker card, as he provides to him, means the truce. And if you look back at the Cyborg vision, where Cyborg saw the future when they're about to resurrect Superman, he sees the Joker card in half. It's been ripped. So clearly that truce doesn't last for very long. Also want to bring this up. Leto is missing some teeth as Joker. It's a little hard to see, but I saw some...
Interesting.
I saw some behind the scenes, and so that explains why he doesn't have the full metal cap, is because he's missing some teeth in the front. He still has a couple metal chompers in the front, but it's hard to see due to the color grading on this. Slightly controversial that apparently people didn't like that Batman says fuck in this. Never mind the fact this is Knightmare Batman, who's got a trench coat and a fucking machine gun, but you say the F word and that crosses the line, apparently. Let's see. Ezra Miller was directed through Zoom in his part, which I don't even think was necessary because he almost looks CG in this. I don't think he need to really be there.
Wow, directed through Zoom.
Physically
That's
shoot
crazy.
much. And then Henry Cavill, when he lands as the Nightmare Superman, that's actually reused footage of when he arrives in Africa in BVS.
Oh,
and Snyder just
nice,
repurposes that.
Nice.
On that. Other tidbit is that Snyder wrote the Nightmare sequence. He actually wrote the dialogue, not Terrio, between Batman and Joker. And there's a lot of different takes on it because Jared Leto was ad-libbing. So one of the lines that Jared Leto ad-libbed was the whole, who's going to give you a reach around line. That was actually Jared Leto. And Leto was like, you're not going to keep that. And Snyder's just like, actually, I will. So that's how that came about. And then, of course, we have the little nice poignant Martian Manhunter epilogue afterwards. Another Easter egg just to bring up is that when Martian Manhunter flies away, if you look at the top right, you see that Wayne Manor, a.k.a. the Hall of Justice, is under construction. So,
hell yeah.
It's probably easier to see on an IMAX screen, but that would be awesome. Anyway, let's go around and see what you guys think of the Nightmare, basically added stuff. I know Dustin's a fan of the Nightmare stuff.
Oh my god, yeah, unbelievable. And it's just got the creative wheels spinning in so many different directions, and just all the possibilities, and the whole idea that if this alternate multiverse does happen, right, that you look at Batman versus Superman differently, right? You take that 1%, he was right, but just everything about it was so amazing. And I don't know how you can watch it and not want more. There's no way. He knew what he was doing, right? He's like, I got this passionate fan base. This is gonna be a hit. AT&T wants to make money. I'm gonna put this out here, and now everybody is call to action. And they're not gonna let this go. And they keep leaking stuff too, right? So, I just don't see how it doesn't happen in some way. There's just no way. There's just too much there. It's too good. Yeah, absolutely.
Zach.
Yeah, that whole Nightmare sequence just made me want to see more as soon as I saw it. And I do like Jared Leto's Joker better. in there.
Shocker.
I know. I still don't like his laugh, but I liked his dialogue better, and it sounded a little bit more like a traditional Joker to me, like him calling Mira fish stick and flounder and stuff. I was like, that was really funny to me. It seemed like something I would hear Mark Hamill's
that was a good move.
Joker say. And the reach around thing was funny to me too, because it's just, he would say, the things that would get under Batman's skin the most, and but still being a little like playful with him, and I think that was really great. And like I said, it just makes me want to see more of that world and that whole story, because it is so new and interesting. It's not what we've seen before, so it's not like the retreading of the same kind of visuals or story. So it's kind of this brand new territory, and I think that's what makes it really exciting. So and just like Dustin said, it's fertile ground for artists. Like I still would have liked to have seen Willem as the Joker instead of Volko, but I will agree that I like Jared Leto better in this one.
Nice. Andrew.
I was a little lost going into this. I was like, oh, okay, this is an alternate reality. This is alternate future. I was kind of like, I don't know. I wasn't following it for the first few seconds of it. I don't know why. Maybe after 4 hours, my brain was fried. But
I mean, once you've seen the Knightmare Batman, you put it together, right?
Yeah, I put it together. I was like, oh, okay, this is all connecting now. But I was just like, wow, we got a crazy team up going on. Batman's teaming up with the Joker, and fucking Mira's here, and Aquaman's dead apparently. It was just like, whoa, what's going on here, man? This is nuts. Mm-hmm. I liked it, but I'm not sure if I absolutely loved it like it seems like you guys do. I'm not sure. I just like the dialogue's too long. Like, how long are they going to talk back? It felt like 3 or 4 sentences too long or something between Batman and Joker. Like just punch each other or kiss already. Like, my God, this is too long of an exchange for me. For me, that's what it felt like. I mean,
get to the action.
And it wasn't even about the fuck or the reach around so much, because Batman says he says fuck sometimes even in the comics, right? Or I'm the goddamn Batman. Goddamn's close enough to fuck.
That's different. Yeah, that's different.
Close enough. Close enough. Yeah, it's worse for some people for sure, right? So that's it's not even a big deal, but it just felt a little too long, I think. But it was cool. I mean, I'm definitely interested to see what will happen with that. They're preparing themselves to go fight an evil Superman, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
that's who he is referring to.
Okay, all right. So,
they're just like, he's coming.
There's no way I'm not seeing that movie. It's gonna be cool, but I don't know. It was okay. It was all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is one of those where I'm just like, normally I would be like, this doesn't need to be in the movie, but it's kind of just like I get why it is. Like, if you know the behind the scenes stuff, then it's kind of just like, it's nice to have it. Especially if we don't end up getting those future movies. It's still nice to have it. If I'm doing a tight rewatch where I just want to see stuff that's the end of the story, then I might just end it after the shirt rip. But if I just want to see the whole thing through, I'm not going to complain. But like when I was watching this for the first time, I was just like, okay, here's the Nightmare sequence. This is cool. And then there's probably going to be the Martian Manhunter thing at the end. I wasn't just like, okay, Jesus. I was kind of more just like, I'm glad there's more movie. Like, I'm glad this is not over.
Right.
Which is definitely not how I felt about the Joss-tice League beforehand. So I think it is really interesting. I'm glad that we get to finally see Batfleck and Leto interact, which is what we might never get after this. So it's cool on that. And then the Martian Manhunter scene, even though like I do wish if they had the people available, it would have been. I feel like it would have been Swanwick revealing himself as Martian Manhunter to Clark and Lois instead of him to Bruce, since Bruce doesn't know who the hell, Swanwick is. But it is kind of cool, just that I really love the imagery of post-rehab healed Ben Affleck playing a healed Bruce Wayne in daylight in that lake house. And he's not, like, threatening Martian Manhunter, which is what usually happens in every time Batman meets Martian Manhunter. And instead he's just he's like, I'll see you around. Like it's definitely like, this is where Bruce, like it feels more earned in terms of Bruce sort of healing due to regaining his faith in humanity through forming this team, through getting to save the world, through showing that what he's done in the past 20 years can make a difference. And I would argue it's probably the best representation of Batman being healed or regaining faith in humanity compared to Dark Knight Rises or what they were trying to do with Batman Forever. So that's what I love about this sequence. Even though, yeah, it might be a tarnish considering what happens in the Knightmare vision, but in terms of where he is at in that scene of Martian Manhunter, I think that part is underrated.
He looks 20 years younger.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's great, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
But if we're talking about like parts that are unnecessary, like to me, like I felt like if you're gonna cut something, I would have cut the Martian Manhunter stuff because I'm sitting here thinking, why is Batman not going, bro?
Where were you?
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
Like
you're as powerful as Superman, right?
That's why we had that sketch.
Yeah.
He was too busy watching Justice League. Yeah. So
there's a cool panel in like one of the New 52 comics where he says Martian Manhunter's like picking up a building and he says, "People often forget I'm as strong as Superman."
Yeah.
When he picks up a building or whatever. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah. So I will tease our Patreon where we're going over the Ryan Troy Atom. We're going over Martian Manhunter and some other tidbits, including what I said just now about how like Batman's past experiences meeting Martian Manhunter for the first time almost always end with him threatening him. And so this is kind of a nice spin on that. And then all the Green Lanterns. Not just, I say all the Green Lanterns because not just we got Yalen Gur, who was the one in the history lesson. We got a cameo of Kilowog in the Cyborg vision. And then we have the Green Lanterns who could have shown up at the end in the epilogue that Snyder originally shot. The Warner Brothers did not let him use.
Fuck them.
So we're going to use that in the Patreon because we've gone long enough already on this. But that is Snyder. We end with Snyder at 48 and Whedon 2. So not a big surprise there, but
it was a close one.
I think it was a close one. It was a Snyder did to Whedon's cut what Superman did to Steppenwolf. That beat down.
That's
earlier
right.
in the
That's
movie.
right.
I think Andrew wanted me to go a little bit into my theories in terms of how the hell did we get the Justice League real quick.
Yeah.
And considering what Ray Fisher has said, where like Joss Whedon is apparently butthurt about the reception from Age of Ultron, where like he did this movie, had to fight with the studio, people didn't really like it, kept saying that the first one was better, and now he's been hired onto this one of the Justice League, and he sees this cut, and it's like, imagine in terms of the ego of like you're hot shit until you're not, and then you see something that people are always going to compare to yours again, done by this other guy, and now you have the opportunity to not make it as competitive anymore. So I feel like there's definitely an ego stroke here, not necessarily of I'm going to improve this movie so much as just like I'm going to half-ass this movie, because Joss Whedon is not a terrible writer. Like he has some great comics in the past. He's had some great like I was a fan of Angel when I was a kid. Like there's a lot that he's done that's good on the writing front. He's obviously not putting his best foot forward in the Whedon. I can't like. There's no way that's him doing his best on that. It just doesn't feel that way. So, and also he has the advantage that he doesn't have his name on as a director on this movie on the Justice League cut. Even though everyone knows about it, but like in 2017, it just said directed by Zack Snyder, and the average person isn't really gonna know that Whedon did anything to this. He has a writing credit, but they don't know that he did anything to this. So I don't think it's too conspiracy theoristy to say that this was deliberate sabotage, just not necessarily on a Marvel versus DC thing, but just in terms of just like, this movie can't be better than mine type of thing, because of he's already butthurt ego-wise. Mm-hmm. He's already been bruised ego-wise, and he just wants to put some shitty version of the Justice League out just so people can be like, yeah, Whedon's Avengers was better. Weird. So that's my theory on that.
It's strange. Like, he's definitely been better. I mean, I guess it's hard to put a square peg in a round hole, kind of, to use a trite expression, but to put Whedon's style into a Snyder environment, that must have been difficult. But yeah, I think that you might be right. We probably will never know for certain, because why would Whedon ever admit that unless he was really somehow forced to in a court of law somehow?
Yeah.
But just we're rounding this whole thing out, right? Before we go to the outro. So, I mean, the thing I wanted to say about this was like, even though I'm not religious, you kind of see karma really play out here as far as like how you treat people, how good of a guy you are. I mean, even though he's like a dark edgelordy dude with his style, kind of in a sense, the way he is behind the scenes with his actors. Look at the way Ray Fisher, fucking Gal Gadot, everybody surrounding him, they all love him. They all love Snyder. You know, they love him as a person. You know, there's something to be said about that. Everybody that I have met people in my line of work that have met Snyder, and they've said to me personally, I'm not going to say names because I'm already treading into hot water talking about this stuff, but let's just say they all like him. They have all, like my secondhand accounts, they all fucking love the guy. So you see like the universe like kind of, you know, hand him back kind of what he deserved based on his good karma that he's kind of racked up. It kind of feels like, and then like Whedon, who used to be loved, that this like the guy that did Buffy and Angel and fucking Avengers 1 especially, that was when his stock was the highest, right? And then you see now it's just like the lowest of the low, and like Jeff Johns not in too much good standing either right now. And he was like the comic book darling for so long, you know, Blackest Night, Brightest Day, all that shit, wrote great Superman runs too, and Stargirl and everything, you know, like everybody loved the guy. And it's just weird to see. It's weird, man. Like we went through an alternate universe through the Large Hadron Collider. I think that's what happened. Like I don't know. We're just in a different world now. We really are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this long-ass journey. That is Zack Snyder's Justice League, Snyder versus Whedon, and that is superhero stuff you should know. We have a few fan comments that I wanted to address. The first one is from Garrett Prince, who commented on our discussion about Cyborg's origin. I said in the Whedon cut, Cyborg's mainly mad at his dad for turning him into Cyborg, and was like, how dare you save my life. Garrett does bring up an interesting point. He says, quote, Joss Whedon did show why Cyborg would be upset about being turned into Cyborg. In the scene where he showed his dad he could fly, he said he was changing daily, and he had no way of knowing how he would change next, and that he isn't fully in control of his non-organic parts, which sets him up attacking Superman and Aquaman's distrust of him. So I don't think Garrett's necessarily defending Whedon. He's just bringing up what was in the Justice League. And I'm like, okay, I agree with you, but I still think that feels weak in terms of him hating his dad for it. Because his dad still saved his life. And his dad didn't like deliberately be like, oh, I'm going to hook him up with a whole bunch of stuff he doesn't know how to use. Like, I think he saved his life with that type of stuff. I think that it's a weaker version, as opposed to the Snyder Cut, where he directly says, like, if you were there, Mom would still be alive. And I'm just like, automatically, I get it, you know?
Right.
Next one is Trépied Gervais. I guess this is the best.
Okay.
This is in response to us talking about, we were ripping apart the critique, and you probably heard this too, Dustin, where people are just like, you know, Darkseid is less of a villain if he, you know, was defeated in the past, type of thing. Trépied brings up, quote, the top fighters for the Age of Heroes was the Green Lantern, Galen Gur, Zeus, the king of the gods, Ares, the god of war, Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, plus the king of Atlantis were all attacking, don't forget King Arthur, for men. The king of Atlantis were all attacking Euxus / Darkseid with their best shot. He had no chance. I would also argue what I said on Twitter, where I said there's a reason why it still worked in the Avengers, if we're doing a Marvel comparison. Loki is the villain in both Thor 1 and the Avengers 1. But nobody said, well, Loki is a worse villain. Like, Loki's not going to be able to threaten the Avengers because he got defeated by Thor. The reason why that worked is because between Thor and the Avengers, he became more powerful. Now, that was just 1 year in between movies. Give Darkseid a few centuries in between, and that explains it, as well as, like, every horror movie sequel in existence. So, yeah. Nobody, like, again, this is one of those things where we're just like, if we're criticizing that, then that shouldn't have worked in Avengers. But where were you with that?
Don't worry about that one too much, Ben.
We know where that comes from.
And last one comes from our buddy Sparkageddon. Sparkageddon had a surprise for us. Well, he told us that. He said, quote, "Awesome video. Say I got a surprise for my Batman Black Knight comic I've been working on. Right now I'm at Act 5 and I added y'all channel as a radio talk host. So at least Andrew and I don't know if he included Dustin and Zach in it. But,
we'll see. We'll see.
He said Wildcard and Mannequin, who I think is his version of Joker and Harley, invade it, but he doesn't kill y'all. See, okay, so the scene I wrote is dope, and y'all will love it. So apparently, we get saved by Batman from Joker and Harley.
Fucking
Andrew.
sweet.
So send that over to us.
Thanks,
Spark again,
man.
and thank you very much
for that.
We are in fan fiction now. We have entered a new realm, new level on the podcast game.
Hell yeah, that's what I always wanted.
All right, Andrew, on to you for the shout-outs.
Oh, man, thank you for those comments, and thank you to our Patreon supporters. They are Shasta, Leom O, Super Inframan, Douglas P, Dan D, Aaron Willett, Nick Noir, Asker's Web, Jeffrey R, Eric J, Scott V, and now we would like to thank our other supporters, Sparkageddon, SDCT Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Bowles, Ian H, Walter the Wobot, John Wells, and maybe we should add Rye Guy.
Let's add Rye Guy.
Let's add Rye Guy. We're going to add Rye Guy real quick. I'm going to type that in real quick as I talk. Okay, and then the next part, please check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/superherostuffpod. The $1 tier gets you that there shout out, but the $5 tier, whew, man, that's what you really want, isn't it, Ben?
Yes, it is.
that's a whole other show weekly.
That's where you're at.
Yep, you get it's the most bang for your buck, really. We have other ones, but the $5 tier is one we really focus on, which is a whole other show released every Friday. Cancel anytime, and it's basically $1 an episode, maybe a little over $1. But we do the deeper dive on that. Generally, Ben, just like on the main pod, but sometimes I lead it as well. I led one recently. And then after that, Superhouse merch. Please check out the Redbubble store. That's superhousepod.redbubble.com. tpublic.com/user/superhousepodcast5000 is our TeePublic one. Threadless is the other one. superherostuffpod.threadless.com. There, you may find Ben Man merch, or indeed Wizard merch, or the Superhero Stuff You Should Know logo merch. Get your t-shirts, get your mugs, get your all kinds of shit. We could add a shower curtain if you wanted. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's a Redbubble option. So if you want a Ben Man shower curtain, you let us know. Okay.
I'll be watching you as you shower. Maybe that's not what you want.
So, yeah, they do have that option for some reason. Anyway, so please leave us a review on iTunes. Also, phone bumper. A bumper is another way to say audio clip. Record something on your voice recorder app on your phone, and then send that to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. You too can be on the show. Also, another thing that we want to do lately, we started just recently, is if you want to use our sketches, our audio sketches, and then make an animation based on that audio, we invite you to do so. Just put hashtag Superhero Stuff You Should Know podcast on the video itself, not just in the descriptions. That way, no matter where you share it, it's going to be in the video. So if it's on the, please, if you do it, put it in the corner somewhere. But it would be really cool to see some of these sketches animated. So let us know if you're into that kind of thing. So yeah. And then I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Instagram and Twitter. Also ThunderwolfLives.com and Thunderwolf Lives on YouTube. There you can check out all my Japanese shit. And that's it, Ben.
You can follow us on Twitter at SuperhousePod. You can also follow us on Instagram at SuperheroStuffPod, which is how we met these fine gentlemen with Dustin and Zach. My personal Instagram is Ben Juan Ryder. My son's Instagram, my cat Alfie, his Instagram is Alfie Pennyworth Cat, so please follow him. Well, maybe, yeah, you should follow him, even though that'll probably feed his ego. Anyway, my website is Ben Juan Ryder. My channel for YouTube stuff is down below in the description. You can also check out our latest, well, at least my latest, that I have a children's comic coming out called Early World. early bird. And so you can check out the website earl-e-bird.com. Anyway, I will turn it over to our guests in terms of where we can find you guys. Over to Dustin first.
Does your cat have more followers than you?
Not yet. He's disappointed in that, which is probably why he scratches me in the morning.
I fully expect it will happen.
It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, you can find me Instagram at Dustin Lee Massey, or you can visit my website at lmasseyart.space.
Awesome. And Zach.
As usual, you can find me on the TikToks, on the Instagrams, on the YouTubes at Zachary Jackson Brown Art, and you can also go to zacharyjacksonbrownart.com, where you can see more of my art and buy more of my stuff. And I'm actually wearing one of my shirts today, which is my Joaquin Phoenix Joker shirt. That's right.
Hell yeah.
It says put on a happy face, so if you'd like one of these, hit me up. Oh, that's right.
Awesome.
One of the little thank you cards.
Yep. So, thank you very much for joining us. When we return next week, we will be diving into Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3, his sequel plans, and how they might have changed considering, the release and the fact that he deliberately leaked out those plans. So, stay tuned for that, and thank you for joining us for this week. See you next time.
Thanks, y'all.